Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I'm your host, Lore Dudinator. The dudiest of all dudes. Wait, that sounds weird. Let's not say it that way. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Oh my goodness. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Daylight Savings Time. You might think, aha, Daylight Savings Time is why you're so off. No, I've just been working on the theater. It's the main thing I was doing. In fact, I do have a little bit of show news about that. But first, let's see. Juanta, Fab Alex, Hazardous Justin, Dream Whisper, Takoida, Lord Atlantean, Cordoon, Shikor, Arathrabo, Aethel, Tizara, Theratos. What is up, everyone? Yes, today... And Darth Tyron. And Platty. But no one else. No one else is here. Definitely not Mike Romano. Or Blue Up Alex. Depends. Can you recruit them to Koida? In Syndicate style? So, first I want to open up with something that's probably not important to most of you. I've been working on the theater. In fact, I spent almost my entire morning working on Chapter 12. Chapter 12 is almost done, director's style. Now, I want to talk about that very briefly. I've actually seen that, Hazardous. I want to talk about that briefly. For those of you not aware, we're doing a fan dub, I believe is the formal terminology for it, of Final Fantasy IX. This is our second fan dub for what we call Lorewalker Theater, which is where... a whole bunch of us get together and we do voice acting for it. It's for fun. It's just a fun, interacting group kind of a thing. Some people are trying to stretch out or get more experience when it comes to voice acting. Some people are Anonymous Gifter. Thank you very much, Anonymous Gifter. Much appreciated. You're probably not even going to answer me, but nevertheless, thank you very, very much. Hazardous, I'm going to go ahead and give you the question there. And it's something we've been working on for the better part of 2 years at this point, because FF9 is an absolutely gargantuan endeavor. And thank you again, an Anonymous Gifter. Much obliged again, as always, sir and or madam. Thank you. So that's still in the maybe category, Hazardous, but I'll go ahead and jot it down for that. I haven't had chance. I haven't had time to look into it. Anyways, thank you again, Anonymous Gifter. Much obliged and appreciate. Please stop. Now, Lorewalker Theater. Now, I realize now with the advantage of hindsight and experience that I did it wrong. And the reason I did it wrong is because I was a moron. See, we previously did a Lorewalker Theater for Paper Mario 2. But Paper Mario 2's format is very different from most other RPGs in general. It is very chapter-based, and it's very cellular, in the way it's constructed, which means doing it chapter by chapter worked. There was no issues with that. We were doing FF9 like that, and then we realized, wait, that's insane, because there's 13 chapters in FF9, each one anywhere from 50 minutes to about 2 hours long. It's a huge project, and there are, of course, an absolutely inordinate number of characters who have speaking lines, that is to say, dialogue, in Final Fantasy IX. So, I told myself, I sat down just before we started this year's YouTube cycle, and I said, okay, as soon as I'm done with the YouTube cycle, I'm going to just sit and absolutely commit myself towards getting all of the director's side of things done. What I mean by that is, first I have to record the raw footage. Now, that's been done for a while. Then I have to edit the raw footage. That takes a while. Then I have to go through line by line and give director's notes for every single line of dialogue in the entire game. That right there is by far the biggest time chunk that working on the Lorewalk Theater is. That takes a huge amount of time. Thank you again, Anonymous Gifter. And yes, max time, by the way. And that goes for Baron as well. That takes such a huge amount of time, I'm still working on it. Now, what we were doing is I'd work on a chapter, and then I'd release it, and then actors would be, go ahead and start tossing out lines for it. That was a mistake, because we have lines now that people recorded literally a year ago for things that I'm still working on. So instead, now, what I have been doing, and what I've been committing to, is just getting all of the stuff done. Getting all of the director's notes done. Which one, Baron? Before I release anything else. And that's what I've been working on. I've just been absolutely slamming out. I finished Chapter 10, I finished Chapter 11. I am very close to finishing Chapter 12. In fact, all I have left is Mikoto's lines and a few NPCs. I am extremely close to... I will finish Chapter 12 today. Chapter 13 is the last chapter. Now... Chapter 13 does have a lot of dialogue on it, but that is it. I can see the finish line now for the director's notes side of things. Once I'm done with that, and I'll probably do an announcement next week, because the odds I won't finish Chapter 13 by the end of the next week are non-existent. Especially since I'm committing all of my free time to this, and I have been doing this for weeks now. Once Chapter 13's director's notes is done, we're basically at the step where all I need is lines. The only thing left is for you guys, and me, because I have roles too, to actually sit down and record the lines. So that'll be the step we're at, and I'll make an announcement and be like, all right, guys, here's what we need, here's the lines, here's the roles available. I've got a spreadsheet. Yes, of course I will, Baron. I've got a spreadsheet. It shows every role that existing roles have. It also is going to show roles that we still need people for, and exactly which chapters they have lines in, because this way I'll have everything done in advance, because there's so many recurring characters in FF9. So... yeah, basically there's going to be a whole much more organized format, and we're going to open up for anyone to get involved. Now, back when I first started taking people who were auditioning for this, I had several requirements. One of those was regularity, because because I was doing it differently. Now, with everything done, I don't need you to be available all the time, because you could just do Chapter 1, 5, and 12's lines now, because I have all of them ready. This is why I'm doing it this new method. So all I need from you is, the desire to get involved and a decent mic. And that's it. Anyone who qualifies for those two things can absolutely be involved as part of the theater. And I would absolutely recommend as many people who are interested to join it. I would love for you guys to get involved. What is a decent mic? The usual ground floor of what I consider decent is the snowball, the blue snowball. The blue snowball is a little bit worse than the mic I use right here for a bit of perspective, but this mic is an actual professional mic. The snowball is still a perfectly acceptable mic, and with a little bit of audio editing I can get rid of most fuzz or other issues. So yes, you need, yeah, exactly, Chocolate Rub. You need to want to be involved, and you need to be capable of being involved, and that's really all I require at this point. And I really would love more people to get involved. We already have a huge cast. If you give me a moment here, I'll pull up my spreadsheet, which I've been working on here. We already have Reximus and Galtori and Sildir and Maverick and the Count and Zagoten and Bragwin and Zedslayer and Foxby. I hope she comes back. Shadow Machine and Cloud of the Stars and Dakoita and the Dreadlord Loki and Mandarton and Shuryu and Random and Questy and Dream Whisperer and Sable-Marked Ferret and Ryokami. We're up to 20 now. Darth Tyrant, Ked Viper, Mike from Dark Pixel or Resonant Arc. Guido is involved, my good friend Guido. My good friend Third is involved. Cord is involved. Huanta is here. Emperor Valerian is doing lines. Cordoon is doing lines. Tiffy is doing lines. The Ultimate Paradox Z, we're up to 31 now. Jinja Ninja, Alicia, Frieza, Platy, Hat, and Killing You. So that's, what is that, 37 actors so far? That's not counting me. I'm doing a bunch of lines, obviously. So yeah, I am... This music is very apropos. I am actually awesome by how many people are involved in this project. And I would just love for even more people to be involved. By the way, Takoida, as a heads up, I know you haven't looked at the spreadsheet yet. That's fine. It's not ready yet. But you know the Elite Guard lines you do? I've actually got a few more occurrences of the Elite Guard in the future. And, of course, Zanero and Bonero. So I'm hoping you're still down for those. But yeah, so as far as roles I still need filled, at the moment, again, this is not a complete list, but I have them devised by gender for obvious reasons. We've got male, female, and doesn't matter. So either, basically. So male, we've got Green Rich Man, Pink Rich Man, Burmesian Kid Adam, Sky Oracle Mile, and Tree Oracle Mile. I'm not going to read all these. We've got a bunch, is what I'm trying to say. There's a bunch of male characters. Most of them are NPCs. Most of them have only a few lines. So anybody who's like hesitant, anybody who's just like, I don't know, we've got tons of NPCs, and I do still want good NPC dialogue, and there's nothing wrong with voicing an NPC. See my lore run on Dragon Age Origins for a discussion of that. We have several black mages who have recurring roles. We have several Mughals who have a few recurring roles. Quan is going to show up a few times. We've got... Now, this is the hard part. We have several female roles, too. I'm probably just going to have to devise these up amongst our existing female actresses. But we have several characters in Chapter 6. A lot of Alexandrians in Chapter 7. Hilda, Sid's wife, is going to show up a few times. We've got several there. And then there's one final bit, that doesn't even matter, so I'm not going to mention that to you guys. Basically, what I want is a cacophony of the Borg for the Terran faces. And so that's going to be me asking several people to basically do the same lines at the same time. But don't worry about yourself about that, I'll get that. Now, Ruth Peleg says, how do I get added? So first you got to be on our Discord, and you have to have a good mic, and you have to give me like a sound sample. I forget what they're called, the Harvard sounds or whatever. I think it's the Harvard sound. Nope, I'm wrong. What's the stupid name of those? I can never think of the term of it. I've looked it up several times, and I've asked people to look it up several times. Recording separately and then combining and editing, Takoida. It's true, Saldir, we're not. But yeah, the idea, as Takoida says, the idea is I want as many people involved as possible. Now, that being said, the way I'm actually going to end up doing that is going to be a little tricky, and it depends on how many people are still available when we get there. Because there's actually 4, I want to say, Terran lines, distinct Terran lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically get as many people involved as I can, and then divide that number by 4. I'll be like, okay, you 5 do this face, you 5 do this face, and you 5 do this face, that kind of a thing. And that's how I plan to do it for the moment. How many nationalities? We've got a German person. We've got a British woman. We've got a Greek gentleman. We've got a Russian gentleman. I'm actually losing track. We actually have quite a few people from all over the place doing lines here. Looking at my list here. I know he's British, and I know he's British. So we got 3 British people. French. Blank is going to be voiced by a French gentleman. Let's see, what else here? I think that is it. Yes, Niscosta, the Harvard sentences. Pretty sure that's it. Why wasn't it showing up when I... Yeah, it is the Harvard sentences. Okay, so if you want to get involved, Ruth Peleg, who is from Israel, and apparently Wanta is from Australia, excuse me. I keep wanting to say Austrian. Little different. If you want to get involved, hop onto our Discord. Any of our mods can help you get on the Discord. We actually have an entire section of the Discord just dedicated to the theater. There's a channel specifically for auditions. All I want is a mic sample from you. So just give me a few... tell me who you are in the mic sample. Give a few seconds of silence so I can hear what your white noise is like. And then say some Harvard sentences so I can get a feel for what needs to be done for the mic and making it work. And that's all I require at this point, really. Again, do me a favor, don't audition like right now, but we're getting very close to the point where I'll be completely opening that up to auditions because I'm getting to the point where we'll finally be done with the director's notes. So, as my tone probably says, I am very excited to get to this point. I'm very excited to be at this point, and we're kind of working this out and blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, Zedslayer, I'm actually happy. You mentioned recently you do want to stay involved, and I'm very happy about that because several of your characters have a lot of recurring lines. Like, you voice a soldier who has lines in 3 separate chapters. And of course, Dr. Tot has 3 chapters worth of lines, and Zorn shows up until chapter 10, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm glad you're going to be still involved. So several people have said, where's the Discord? I feel like I already said this, but just to reiterate, ask the mods in chat. They're the ones who contain the gate. They have the keys to the gate to the Discord. We are at private invite because we've had issues in the past. But we can get an invite to you. Do I have any mods on right now? I don't have a good way of checking that. I think I have Bragwin on, maybe? Bragwin might not be on. It'd be Bragwin, Valvadrix. Oh, there's Bragwin. There's Bragwin's. No, leave the pants off, Bragwin. Why did I pick FF9? That's a very good question. So we did Paper Mario 2. Now, I always wanted to do several of the FFs. So, okay, there's actually only a few games that actually work for this kind of a project. Like, for example, I've thought about doing an FF7, but I don't want to because FF7 has established... What is that emote, Brigwin? FF7 has established characters, voice actors, that is to say. It would be like, and we can't do it for something like Kingdom Hearts either. We can't do it something for some that either has voice acting, that has established voices, or has partial voice acting. So this kind of limits us on what is available, right? So in other words, it has to be a game that is pure text. It also has to be a game that has a decent story. It has to have decent text, otherwise it's just going to be kind of right? So we do have a few other ideas going forward, including Final Fantasy VI is one of the ones I would want to do in the future. I'll be voicing Kefka, of course. And, yeah, exactly. See, Omega Legion gets the point there. But yes, the other two games that I'm thinking about doing going forward are Undertale, which is going to be a much smaller project than FF9, although also kind of more difficult from a editing perspective. But I have some thoughts on that one. So Undertale and Final Fantasy VI are both other games we have thought about doing. I've also thought about FF5, although that one's kind of limited in how much story is there, but it is still one I've been thinking about. But those are the ones on the docket right now. And yes, for FF6, whoever voices Celeste, I am literally going to require that she is a singer, that she can actually sing. So that is going to be part of the audition thing there. So, thank you very much, Not Blessed. Much obliged and appreciate as always, sir. Thank you. If you happen to know where you'd like to put that for a future stream, let me know. Does Fallout 2 have voice acting? Yes, it does. A lot of PC RPGs have voice acting. That's why they're not even really on the table, so to speak. But yes, determining roles for Undertale is going to be very tricky because Undertale actually doesn't have a lot of roles. However, almost every present role has at least a decent chunk of voice acting. Or a decent chunk of dialogue is what I mean, not voice acting. I agree, Salder, but you get my point, right? Like, it's not... Only certain games qualify. You got it. Not Blessed. You got it. Let me jot that down real quick. Like... Not Blessed. Ace Attorney... 2. But yeah, I'm going to be very, very picky about Undertale when we come to that. But I've also been very picky about FF6 and most of the main characters for FF9. I will freely admit I'll take just about anyone for NPCs because I like variety. But at the same time, I do also want as many people to be involved as possible. And to give a quick shout out, a lot of the people who've been voicing our lines have been so awesome, and I hate to oversell them. But I've really been liking a lot of your guys' voice acting. Galtori voices Garnet/Dagger, and she just nails it. Like, I basically picture Garnet's voice as Galtori's voice now, and consequently the same thing with Steiner. Syldir voices Steiner, and he does a really good job of it, to the point where I'm actually, like, again, that is what I picture now. When I see the text on screen for Steiner, that is the voice I picture there. Maverick has been doing an awesome job. He voices Baku, Artania, the Conductor, Maguda, Black Mage #1, Burmesian Soldier Grey, Earnest Young Man, Policeman, Barkeep, Auctioneer, Mowgli, Knight Oracle Donegan, Clayron High Priest, Brian Rootrunner, and the Engineer. That's 15 characters. And I actually expect to get him for even more going forward, so... do I expect auditions? Yes and no. Savacom has also been doing a good job with Eiko. She voices Eiko. And we got a bunch of good people. Bregwin, who voices Queen Braun. You maybe think, oh, that's insulting. No, she's actually been doing a very good job of it. And I'm going to pull her back for Aaron as well. Zed Slayer is Zorn. Random was Thorn and Kuja. Fox B was Beatrix, and she did an awesome job of it. I really hope that I can, I have no method of getting a hold of her, so I'll probably never see her again, and that sucks. She kind of left the Discord, and there was some drama, and that sucks. Shadow Machine did Black Waltz #1, and engineers Zabolt and Buns. Takoida... Takoida's an interesting one, because he's been having some trouble voicing Black Waltz number 3, and he mentioned that just a bit earlier. I didn't ignore that, and that's fine. I don't mind doing Black Waltz number 3. I have a very particular tone in mind for him. But Dakota actually does a really good job with both the Elite Guard and Zanera and Banera, and so I'm liking it. Man Darton, I haven't heard from him in a while, but Man Darton did some good things, and he's going to be coming back in the future, so I hope he'll be back, as he has several lines going forward. Shuryu, excuse me, is voicing Kuina, and has been doing an excellent job with him, and he's got a lot of lines later on, so... we got some recent people, so Dream Whisperer is the one voicing Blank, and he's actually a recent addition, but that's because we lost our voice actor for Blank. But Dream Whisperer's been doing a good job with Blank, so I've been pretty happy with that. And speaking of recent voice actors, we actually also got Hat in. I don't know if he watches the stream, but he's the guy voicing Amaranth, and I think our final main character. Killing You is doing Garland. He's been doing a good job with that. Frieza did several roles. I haven't heard from Ultimate Paradox Z in forever, but he did a lot of good stuff in Chapter 5, so that's awesome. And let's see, I actually need Huanta to come back in Chapter 9, because he's got additional lines in Chapter 9. What else we got here? We got a lot of people. Oh yes, Ryokami. I really hope... Lol, Gary. Ryokami is an excellent job of Freya. She has a wonderful voice for the tone, and knows how to get that particular kind of like pseudo-wizened, tragic, serious dragoon thing without going overboard. She does a very good job of it. I haven't actually seen her in a while, so I'm hoping that she watches these and can come back and continue voicing Freya, because obviously Freya has a lot of lines going forward. Major roles. So we have a few recurring characters. Most of the Black Mages are in at least 2 chapters. Most of the Mughals are only in 1 chapter. This is going to sound strange, but I need someone to play Alexandrian Soldier 1, Alexandrian Soldier 2, and Alexandrian Officer. Now, this is going to sound strange. You're probably thinking, why is that a hard thing? All 3 of those are female, and all 3 of them talk to each other. So I need 3 distinct actresses for those roles, and that's going to be kind of tough. I'm hoping I'll be able to get 3 separate women to be able to voice those lines, because they have lines from Chapter 6 all the way up to Chapter 9. So that's going to suck. Hilda has a few recurring lines. I think I mentioned that already. I think it's it for major roles. Most of the rest of it is NPCs that need to be filled. And then in I don't think any new roles are introduced in Chapter 13. So I think we'll be... Oh, no, there's one. One new character is introduced in Chapter 13, so that should be them. What games wouldn't I do a fan dub of? Well, I feel like I already answered that question. I wouldn't do a game that has, established voices, established voice acting, or a decent story. It needs to fulfill all 3 categories. I gotta be honest, I'm not thinking too much about future games right now, because, I've been working on the theater for literally in the years range at this point. I'd kind of like to finish the FF9 theater at this point, because holy crap. This has been a long, long project. But it is actually coming together, and it feels awesome, and I just wanted to talk about it. So forgive me, I didn't actually mean to talk about it that long, but I know not all of you are aware of the theater, and I wanted to mention that. So let's move on to the other bit of show news, now that people have shown up and recognized that it's daylight savings time in the States, because we're dumb. I don't know why this still exists, but moving on. It legitimately, if I could take just a second, I actually don't know why daylight savings time still exists. Like you'd think usually things persist because there's money involved or because there's momentum involved. But at this point, there's no one's benefiting from daylight savings time. Why is it still being practiced? And the best part is it's not actually a federal thing. For those of you not aware, here in the States, it's not a federal thing. It's a state thing. So, yeah, Arizona, for example, it doesn't have daylight savings time. Oh my God. Anyways, moving on. Let's talk about Patreon. So, for those of you not aware, Patreon is where I actually make the bulk of my money overall. I make decent money from the Twitch stuff, and that's awesome, and that's been extremely helpful. And I make a very, very, very minor amount of money from DonorBox, but I still track it. The bulk of my income comes through Patreon. Now, the problem is Patreon is basically just, here, Lore, have money. Like, it doesn't specifically go to anything in particular other than the rumination requests. Now, that's been my way of being grateful to the Patreon people, is basically making the Patreon patrons decide what we ruminate on. If you look on the website, you look at all the Friday ruminations, every single one of those was both nominated and then voted for on behalf of the patrons, right? But I've been thinking about this. Yeah, absolutely, Darth Tyrant, no problem. I have no problem being the director. I've been told I am a passably terrible director, so hopefully I'll do a little bit of a decent job of it. So here's the thing. I've been thinking for a while now about how to connect Patreon more tightly to the streams, to deciding what stream stuff we do. And the biggest problem has actually been practical functionality of it. There's no easy way to do this. There's no automated way to do this. There's no good way to really check it, right? Now, I've had an idea in the back of my mind for a couple months, and I've held off until now, until I, just to try and look into it a little bit more and find anything else. And basically, I found nothing else. So here's the deal. What I'm going to start doing, and I'll do this post after today's Loreweek while I'm working on the first streamination for the day. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a post over on Patreon. It's going to be a patron-only post. And what I want you to do, if you're a patron, is I want you to go ahead and respond to that post if and only if you want to put your monthly patronage funding towards helping to fund a particular stream. In the exact same way we do this Twitch subscriptions, in the exact same way we do bits, in the exact same way we do direct donations. Same thing. You say that, I'll write it down, blah, blah, blah. Now, couple caveats. Because this is basically me manually, awkwardly forcing this to work. Okay? So, couple caveats. First of all, I tend to write down the name on Patreon, because that's how I keep track of who's whom. If you don't want the name you have on Patreon on the thanks screen or in my documents, you need to change that because I have nothing else I can use. Does that make sense? Like, that's what I need to use that name in order to keep track of things, financially speaking. Because what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to manually make sure that everyone putting money towards it not only is a real patron, because I do have fake patrons, even still. That actually happened in the last Floodgate cycle, by the way. I had a few fake patrons show up right at the end. So I need to make sure that you're a real patron, because Patreon's dumb, and I need to see how much you put in monthly. And I need to make sure that you're current. But the way we're going to do this is basically into the first week. So they bill people on the 1st through the 5th. So shortly thereafter, basically the first week of any given month, I'll leave this post up. I'm only going to leave it up for a week, because leaving it up longer is going to get into unfeasible territory. Even leaving it up for a week is, but I have to leave it up for at least a little while. Once that week is over, that post is being torn down. I'm going to delete it, okay? And I'm going to be manually checking everyone on there to see who they are, how much they put a month, and how much, and then in the post, in the comment to that post, that's where you say, I want to put it towards such and such. Make sense? I know this is a mess. This is as good as I got, guys. This is, yeah. So how do I tell a fake patron? It's actually very simple. And I could walk you through this. Let's say you went to Patreon right now and said, I'll give you $100 a month, Lore. And I'm like, sweet. Now, what will happen is the system, the Patreon system, will flag you as a patron and give you patron access and put you in a patron category if it's valid, which it isn't in my case. So you'll have access to all the patron-only stuff, and you'll have access to all of the, the patron-specific thing. And you can make a request and say, hey, I want you to do this. However, you have not spent one penny. It's not until the 1st of the month, when the billing cycle comes around, that you actually spend any money, that the subscription fee comes due, to put it into such terminology. That's a fake patron. There's also, there's actually several other varieties of this. For example, some patrons will totally put in a credit card or whatever that's invalid or out of date. So it'll try to bill them, and it'll get bounced back because it's going to an invalid account or an invalid bank or whatever, right? And that happens semi-frequently. Yeah, there's a lot of anti-fraud built in at the actual billing thing. So those are all fake patrons, people who pretend to sub up, people who have an invalid card, people who have an invalid account, people who don't have the money to actually spend on it, blah, 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 blah. So I have to basically check manually in order to figure out who real patrons are from fake patrons. Not a lot I can do about this. So this is going to be going forward every first week. And again, later today, I'll be putting up November's post. So later today, I'll be starting doing that and keeping track of it just like I do everything else. Meanwhile, Sonoshi is totally a fake. I knew it. How could you? Thank you very much, Sonoshi. Much appreciate the totally fake subscription. And that's going to the 3D one. You got it. So, that's all the show news, theater, and Patreon. How are lore runners chosen? I have no idea. Like, when I was chosen, the great lore came down from on high and spoke... I don't understand your question, I'm sorry. Oh, how are lore runs chosen? Very carefully. In fact, we're at the point now where the amount of lore runs I will accept going forward has shrunk substantially. Because we've already done most of the major lore runs that I think are really doable, put simply. So for a lore run to be valid, it has to be a game with substantial lore to discuss. It has to be a game that has substantial interest and funding from you guys. It has to be, and it could be a game series too, obviously. It has to be something that I either know or can know well enough to comfortably speak about at length and in depth. And it has to take even more substantial funding. So, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not saying I'm completely out of stuff to Koida, but I am running low. There's only one in the books right now. That's the 2 GTA ones. I feel comfortable talking about GTA 3D-verse and the GTA HD-verse, as long as I can get GTA 4 running. That's the main problem there. But, yeah, moving forward. Okay, so, I do have a couple tidbits of random news before we move on to the big topic for the day. Tetris Low Run. In the Dark Ages, the Russians decided to craft the greatest weapon ever known to mankind. Anything else I'm hoping to do a lore run on? No. Like, from my perspective, I'm basically done with lore runs. I mean, I'll accept a few more because people have interest in them. Obviously, the GTAs are ones that are, you know, our people are pushing for, but past that. Anyways. The Metroid run is one that's already on the books, so to speak. Where's my bit here? So, I felt like I had a second thing. Oh yeah, BioWare lost another lead at Anthem. Chad Robertson bailed on BioWare. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. I hope the man goes on and gets a decent job and decent work, because... Sure. I actually meant to talk about this one during Polemic Day, the Halloween stream. Twitter is banning political advertising for the upcoming presidential campaign. Like, for the coming year. So... Well, the problem at MCUTA is lore runs take more time, effort, and effort than anything else I do. Like, the only way a lore run can happen is basically if 2 other features aren't happening, if you know what I mean. So, well, according how they'll actually execute this is up to them, of course. But we'll see going forward. I don't have much to share specifically about this. I don't have any thoughts on that, Corvex. I don't even know the guys, really. Meanwhile, Facebook is totally cool with adverts. And meanwhile, this is actually a funny one. Farmers Insurance. Anyone know who Farmers Insurance are? It's an American insurance firm. They are pulling out of their ad campaign with GeoMedia. This is funny. Now, I actually dug into this one a little bit because I've been following the GeoMedia thing for a little bit here. Probably not, in all honesty, Anthony Jeff. Although I do need to redo the Pandaria episode, which will actually get a little easier to do in the future, but let's not get into that right now. Anywho, GeoMedia is... I don't want to say they're evil, because that's hard to say, but GeoMedia pushed the idea of automatic audio on playing adverts on their websites. Now you might be thinking, oh my god, that's horrible, this is funny. The specific reason they did this is actually from the Wall Street Journal on this, is that they didn't think that their sites could deliver the eyeball requirements that they were being paid for that from the advertisers. Basically, they didn't think they would get the number of eyeballs to justify the number of adverts. So they decided to do these incredibly invasive adverts that everyone was pissed off by, that everyone hated. And that was kind of the beginning of all of this. And this is just, this is kind of an ongoing story. That's why this is just a random news section for the moment. But this has been causing a bit of a stir, and they have lost quite a bit of ad revenue, and several people have been pulling out. The entirety of Deadspin's staff is now gone. Deadspin is underneath GeoMedia. This has been interesting, and you're probably thinking, who the hell is GeoMedia? If you know who Gizmodo, Gawker, and Kotaku is probably the one most of you guys are actually familiar with. Deadspin. Those are all under GeoMedia. Now, what's funny about this, when Geo first bought Kotaku and several other things, I actually knew who GeoMedia was because they're horrible. And I actually told several of my friends personally, do me a favor and stop going there. You know, don't go to Jezebel, don't go to Lifehacker, because GeoMedia is horrible. And sure enough. Anyways. So that's a thing. Oh yeah, and now this is going to sound like minor news, but in minor news, EA is now releasing some of their games back on Steam. Now, this is actually surprisingly small news. I've heard a lot of people being like, oh my god, EA is back to Steam. So most of the game, it actually depends on a game-to-game basis. What's going to happen is you can purchase a game on Steam, but just like most Ubisoft games, if you launch the game through Steam, what will happen is then you will launch the game over on the fact that I just got a new patron. Sorry. Thank you, Kira White Noise, very, very much. So what's going to happen is you're going to launch the game from Steam, and it's going to launch Origins, and then it's going to launch the game. Which, again, is pretty much exactly what Ubisoft has been doing for years at this point. Now, this does mean a few variances, and this does mean a few different things, but let's just be blunt about this. This is a cheap and safe move by EA. This gets them brownie points because, hey, our games are on Steam. And this makes sure that they get a larger market. Because to put it as absolutely bluntly as I can, more people are likely to buy a game on Steam than they are on EA Origins, right? I'm sorry, that's fact. Whether that's good or bad is over there, but no, that is just straight fact. So they're going to get more sales, and they are going to get some brownie points. And it doesn't really cost them anything. All it costs them is a little bit of a profit share, the 30%, off of the Steam sales specifically, which I assure you EA would not be doing this if they hadn't already calculated the fact that that is going to be offset by the increased sales. And of course, it's still going to be using Origin, although apparently not for every game, so whatever. I actually don't care for Origins. I will give them credit. The support staff for EA Origins has actually been pretty good. I have several experiences with them, and they have been pretty chill every time I've interacted with them, so make of that what you will. But the actual program is no. They also mentioned, now this is actually one other tiny bit, so they actually launched their fiscal report, their Quarter 2 fiscal call, and they mentioned what they're going to do going forward. And I'm only mentioning this because they've mentioned a few things that nobody cares about, like the next Battlefield game isn't shipping for a while. Who cares? NBA Live is getting bumped forward. Again, who cares? They're gonna be releasing the Command & Conquer remaster. Yep, okay. Medal of Honor VR. Yep, okay. And finally, they are still apparently putting development money into Dragon Age. However, that won't even begin to be a thing until basically next year at the earliest of when they'll start showcasing that. I stand by my statement that that Dragon Age 4 will probably not actually come out, just in general. But if it does, we'll see when we get there. We'll see. Yeah, you know what? I agree with Zeiss completely. You know how much I think it's going to come out? Right here. That's how likely it is to come out. In case you didn't see that, one more time. So we'll see. We'll see. Now... Whoops, too far. I need a timestamp. Let's talk about BlizzCon. There's actually a lot of news to cover here. I'm going to go and be real for just a second. If you expect me to be universally negative about BlizzCon, not happening. If you expect me to be universally positive about BlizzCon, not happening. This is a very roller coaster BlizzCon for me, okay? I have actually spent a decent chunk of time processing this both mentally and emotionally. I've been talking with other people about it, trying to get different thoughts and all that. Obviously, as ever, I am going to go ahead and give my own legitimate thoughts and feelings about this, but I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm talking about WoW last. I'm just going to save that for the end, okay? Cool. I did play Mega Man 2 during the stream. So let's explain that really quick. Why was I playing Mega Man 2? Was it because I was bored? No. Was it because I was angry? No, it's because I was so emotionally unsure of myself in the wake of the Shadowlands announcement that I needed something to help me relax. I needed something to help me center myself. And I know this is going to sound strange, but Mega Man 2 is one of my go-to games that's just... It helps me to process. It helps me to focus, right? That's why I was doing that. It was helping me to center myself. You can make fun of that if you want. That's okay. I think a lot of people actually have games that they play for exactly that purpose. Super Metroid's another one for me. You notice I was playing that all during the Halloween stream because I could play that game while talking with you guys because it helped me to focus. So I know I imagine at least some of you have a game like that. So I imagine at least some of you understand where I'm coming from. Now I'm going to open chat a little bit bigger so I don't fall behind because chat's going by pretty fast. I don't want to miss anything here. There we go. All right. So let's start off at the bottom. Let's talk about StarCraft. Let's go ahead and talk about a couple of facts, okay? One of the things Blizzard has been pushing for years is emphasis on the esports side of things. And one of the things Blizzard has been doing for years is pulling time, attention, money, and personnel out of StarCraft. So we can therefore say, by logical conclusion, that StarCraft 2 can never possibly be an esports game. I'm not quite joking. We talked about this during the stream. Blizzard has really been shoving esports a lot. And every year it's been more. They've been shoving more esports. During the pre-show for this year's BlizzCon, about 90% of it, no exaggeration, was just esports. The WoW esports, the Hearthstone esports, the StarCraft esports, the Heart of the Storm, Heroes of the Storm esports, and the Overwatch esports. It was all about the matches and the competitive and the tournaments and all that stuff. It was all about that. They have really, really been pushing that narrative hard. I don't know why exactly. I have to assume it's making money. So, StarCraft 2, they're allowing the DeepMind AI, which they've been doing stuff with Google with for a while now, to do matches with players now in very tight and controlled circumstances. And they're releasing a new co-op commander. That's it. There was a comment they made, I believe it was last year. It was last year or the year before, where they actually were asked, why are there going to be new map packs, story packs, expansions to StarCraft 2? And the answer was no. Because they said that the Nova Pack that they released like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, however long it's been at this point, the Nova Pack didn't sell all that well, but co-op commanders sell much better. So obviously they need to release more co-op commanders and not more map packs. Moving on. Heroes of the Storm is the next one, which also has very, very little news. So they're releasing Deathwing. That's it. Deathwing is going to be a playable character in Heroes of the Storm. He looks cool. He looks interesting, kinda. Alright, so moving on to the next thing. Let's talk about Hearthstone. Actually... So speaking of that, yeah, the loss of TB really didn't help the StarCraft community, I don't think. I mean, the loss of TB sucked in general, but you know what I mean. Hearthstone, okay, so I'm going to speak from ignorance here, because I'm not actually into Hearthstone. But I believe that Hearthstone is doing something they haven't done before, and they're actually doing a block. Can anyone confirm if this is the first time they've done a card block? Now, I'm going to go and explain that for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about. Back in the day, Magic the Gathering used to do blocks of expansions. So what I mean by it is 3 separate expansion groups of cards, but like say these 3 are all part of the same block, which means they're connected narratively, it means they're connective in terms of gameplay, and it means they're connective in terms of specific mechanics, right? So all of those specific expansions are all effectively part of the same block, and as Dakota says, are designed to be played together. Now, that was actually a really cool thing that MTG did. Apparently, they still do that, so that's awesome. Mirrodin block, by the way. Just saying. Best block. Mirrodin block. So, yeah, okay. So, I'm seeing people confirming that, yes, this is the first time Hearthstone is doing this. So, this is the Year of the Dragon. This is the 3rd expansion they're releasing, which is a part of this same block. Sounds like a good move, honestly. I do think that's a good move. There's a reason Magic the Gathering does it and has made it work. It's probably worth noting that MTG has been doing this for a really long time, story-wise. Like, there's been books. There has been a narrative thread. There is lore to MTG. It's kind of hard to get into if you're just into the cards, but there is a story there, and that helps keep the narrative going for each block, because there's a continuous thread that helps them to design cards, and the two mesh really nicely. When you have a story going on, you can use that to bounce ideas off of to come up with new cards, which can help you to make up new story threads. The two mesh. It's a great idea. So anyways, this is either the first or second block. Nascosta says it's the second block. But this, near as I can tell, this is the first real block where there's actually one cohesive narrative going through it, and this is, the cards are designed to go to blah, 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 blah. They are introducing Galakrond for some reason. I get it, you're the dragon. And a few new cards, a couple new mechanics. Admittedly, that is actually kind of all I got. That's kind of it. But that's where they're going with Hearthstone. I have been hearing reports that Hearthstone is basically winding down a little bit, which makes sense in its own way, because of the fact that, well, honestly, it's just winding down, and games only last so long in terms of relative popularity, and Blizzard likes to only put money into things that make the most money possible. Now, I'm not saying Hearthstone's dying. Don't mistake that. What I mean by that is we have known several people who are bowing out of Hearthstone. In fact, they just lost, I believe, 2 additional directors on the Hearthstone team, like just a week ago or 2 weeks ago or something like that. So that's kind of what I mean. They're shuffling resources around. Corporation, whatever. See you around hyperspeed. Now, that's true. Hearthstone is adding this new large group thing, which doesn't look nearly as cool as I was hoping it would be. I mean, I hate to say that like that, but really, at first glance, I was like, oh my god, 7 players at once, that sounds great! Wait, no, that's not what that is. And so it's like, alright, whatever. Is this what I think it is? Yeah, this is what I think it is. So yeah, it's 8-player free-for-all. You choose one of 3 heroes, they have unique powers, there's a recruit phase and a fight phase, and you rotate. It's not literally 7v1v1s. It's kind of a new cycle-based rotating table thing. Neat, not quite as cool as I was hoping. And they released a bunch of new cars. Sathravar is going to be there. You know, Molten Breath. You gotta have Molten Breath, right? I'm looking at the Q&A stuff right now for Hearthstone. Nothing super fascinating to me. I should clarify that. Closed beta, open beta is in November 12th. For anybody curious of this and wanting to try this out. There's going to be new heroes added to the game. Blah, 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 blah. Apparently, if you get 3 times of the same minion during the rotate recruit phase, you get a golden minion who actually has better stats. And it says they want to combine Hearthstone with auto chess. I still don't actually know what auto chess is, so one of these days I need to look that up. Anywho. Shrug. Oh yeah, this is actually one thing. For anybody who does actually play Hearthstone and cares, you simply get the 5 Galakron cards for logging in during the new expansion. So, Deathwing is an 8 mana 12/12 card. And apparently each class is going to get dragons, yada yada yada. Now, I suppose we could jump from Hearthstone into talking about Hong Kong and the apology. Yeah, I have no idea what either of those are in Ascosta. I mean, I know what Dota is. Dota 2. So, first, yeah, I know auto chess is a mod. I don't know what it is. Let's talk about the Hong Kong thing first. For those of you not aware, they basically were avoiding any real deliberate footage showcasing any protesters. There were people there in Winnie the Pooh. There were people in Winnie the Pooh outfits and cosplay. There was actually an entire protest going on outside of BlizzCon, like right out the doors, and you can find tons of footage. I'm not going to share links because it doesn't matter. You can find it anywhere. There's tons of people who were showcasing and taking pictures and footage of the people outside. Some of the people outside were protesting the Hong Kong thing. Some of the people were protesting the games. Some of the people were protesting the Chinese influence on the industry. Bunch of different things like that. Shrug, High Court, I was talking about you earlier. Sadly, I don't actually have much else to add to that, because it really was exactly what you'd imagine. It was a protest that got a lot of media attention from everyone other than Blizzard themselves. Yeah, I don't think they thought that one through in Ascosta, because I know what Lokta Urgar means. There was literally one question about Hong Kong. I was having trouble finding footage of the specific time when they asked about it. Because, well, to be perfectly blunt, because there's so much news from so many pages on so many sites, that keeping it all straight has been an absolute hassle. I have like 15 tabs open right now with just information, so... Now, let's talk about the apology. I'm going to go ahead and say, I've re-watched the apology with full analysis mode on, and I stand by what I said last time. I already hit the nail on the head, I think. I know a lot of people don't take it this way, and a lot of people have been very negative towards this, but I'm just going to go ahead and give my opinion on the matter bluntly. I think the apology was genuine from the person, not the company. I would be willing to bet money that that man, that individual, has literally lost sleep over this entire situation. That he is bothered by all of this. Now, whether that matters to you or not, that's up to you to decide. Whether that means anything or not, that's up to you to decide. They will not actually go forward with changing anything. They won't. Because that's not his call. He doesn't have the ability to do anything about that other than resign. He is a part of the system. He knows it, and I don't think he likes it. So, make of that what you will, but that is my take on that. Again, that's all up to you. That is all up to you how you want to take that. Because it's not Halloween, and I don't want to get further into this topic, as weird as that may sound. I know what you're thinking. I thought the Hong Kong thing wasn't controversial. It's not. But how much an individual is compliant for the actions of the society they're in, well, that gets into some controversial territory, doesn't it? Do you think, let me just give you a straight question, do you think the president of Hershey should resign? Honest question. No judgment. Let's assume for a moment that President Hershey is actually a decent person. Over what? Child labor. I don't know who it is, and I don't care. That's not the point. You get my point, though? I don't actually feel... I'm kind of in the middle, as I usually am here. I feel for Brack, but I also don't. You know what I mean? He is complicit. Let's go ahead and just be 100% honest. He is complicit in what Activision Blizzard is doing. However, how much capacity he has to affect that is far more vague of a topic. How much ability he has to do anything about this, that is much less of a definitive. If I could be so bold, this is pure presumption. As Liberated says, he only has two options. He can fall into line or leave his job. That is what Brack has the power to do. That is reality. That is life. I mean, I'm sorry, but that is it. I don't blame him for not resigning. But I can't exactly cheer him for not resigning either, because again, there's no good option here. There's no yes, you know? There's no, that's the right choice. Now, if I could, so getting back into my speculation, can I do that really quick here? This is pure speculation, but I have a feeling that he fought for that apology. Now, we can prove with 100% certainty that he was reading a prepared apology, because the camera would swing over and we'd see the frickin' teleprompter. Like, you could literally see it. You could just watch the VOD. No, Pika, I did not. But you kind of get where I'm going with this one. In other words, the idea here is that he fought for getting his apology on stage, and they told him, okay, here's the apology you're going to give. This is why I mentioned that his apology was sincere, even if the words coming out of his mouth were not his own. Does that make sense? Again, make of it what you want. And I have no judgment to offer here one way or the other. I think that man felt awful about all this, and feels awful about all this, but also sees, or at least thinks in his own estimation, that he basically can't do anything. That's why the dialogue, if you ripped the sincerity of the man's tone out of it and just listened to the pages, or the words on the page, what you're listening to is crap. Just dreck. Completely typical vague corporate lawyer speak. I would bet at least 5 lawyers went over that with a fine-tooth comb. At least. But that's what I think on the apology. I suppose I haven't actually given my opinion on the matter, but I kind of have at the same time, haven't I? So... I do feel bad for the individual. I feel bad for a lot of individuals. I mean, I'm powerless, but I also don't have, like, a position of wealth or standing, and am also powerless. Like, how much worse would it be to be someone in a position where you should have the ability to do something and you still can't? Like... Anyways, life sucks. Moving on. Warcraft III Reforged. Now, they did show a few things here. Only a few, actually. So they are showcasing, there's the new camera tool. They're showing different color team health bars, you know, blah, 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 blah. Not actually a lot of news. Oh, by the way, I want to mention something really quick. Warcraft III Reforged, Overwatch 2, which we'll get to in a second, Diablo IV, which we'll get to after that, and then, well, Shadowlands. None of those have a release date. In fact, only one of those have a release window. All of those games, except for Shadowlands, don't even have a rough estimate of when they're coming out yet. I just thought I'd mention that because that's interesting, because any of those could be coming out at just about any point in time in the future, and who knows at this point. But anyways, okay, so Right now, they're still in the early beta phases of Warcraft III Reforged. We're still in closed beta status. It is, if any of you have looked at it, and I have looked into the beta a little bit myself, it is definitely in beta status. They are nowhere near being ready on that one. They are trying, like I said, they mentioned they're doing new camera stuff. They're doing animation, varying animations. However, there's a whole bunch of issues with that one. Much more difference with regards to meshing and all that fun stuff. Blah 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 blah. Multiplayer stuff, multiplayer stuff, multiplayer stuff, multiplayer stuff, multiplayer stuff, multiplayer stuff. Lots of stuff. They're actually making it so that they are going to be releasing the map editor. Of course they are. They should be. Looking at the notes here. They are going to be doing some remaking of the actual campaign, but only a little. That's actually a little unfortunate for me. As weird as that may sound, I think they should be doing even more remaking of the campaign than they are. But apparently they want to keep most of the original sound files and most of the original dialogue, which means they have to write around the original dialogue. They're going to be showcasing some of things more accurately and more close to how they actually happened in the recurrent in the current iteration of retcons. I'm going to say it that way because we'll get there. But that's generally where they're going. And again, not really a lot of news because... So we'll see. Yes, Reforged will have both Reign of Chaos and Frozen Throne. And yes, Shadowlands is currently available for pre-order. However, the window... Okay, so apparently I either misspoke or Niscosta misunderstood me. The only game of the games I listed which has a launch window is Shadowlands, which is late next year. Every other game present doesn't even have a window, including Warcraft III Reforged, Overwatch 2, Diablo Immortal, actually I forgot about that one, and Diablo IV. None of those have release windows even. They're just when they're done. They probably won't, Dakota. The stated intent is if you wanted to play Warcraft, someone is playing Warcraft 3 and someone was playing Warcraft 3 Reforged, that the two of you would be able to play a game side by side, which means the gameplay has to basically be the same. No, it doesn't, Valkorian. They have flat out said, and they said this in an interview, no, it's coming out soon, aka they don't actually have a window. If you look at the thing, it's like, oh, it's coming out December. That's a complete placeholder and has been a placeholder since forever. So, let's talk about Diablo Immortal. Now, this is actually funny to me. Because Diablo Immortal did actually have news. They didn't say it during the big presentation, which was correct. Let's just be blunt about that. Whether Diablo Immortal is a good game or not, putting it up on the big stage was a huge mistake. Diablo Immortal is also no release date, as I already mentioned. They have... Hey, let me mute this really quick to see what I'm missing here. So they've added new zones to the game. They are trying to add more animations. They're actually using a similar engine to the Diablo IV engine, apparently. I have to take that on word because who frickin' knows. They're adding more events. They're adding more multiplayer interactions. Blah, 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 blah. This is all basically a lot of blah, blah, blah to me. New classes. The Necromancer will be there, or Necromancer if you prefer. They're adding this whole thing where basically you'll have basic abilities and an ultimate ability, and it's all the same stuff from the game they're reskinning. So nothing really worth noting here. There is one tiny tidbit, one little tidbit that I wanted to mention. So first of all, they do have signups for a beta now. The beta is not ready. They don't even have a release window for the beta yet. So that's just going to happen at some point in the future. However, this is funny. So first of all, they state that they plan to continue to support the game with regular content updates. These will include zones, dungeons, stories, bosses, classes. Okay. When asked directly about microtransactions, the reaction was, and I quote, "We're taking the time to get it right." So whether it will be a mobile game or mobage, who knows? And that's the problem. We really don't know. They don't even have a release window for this stupid game yet. So I suppose that's good as enough of a segue to talk about Diablo IV. So, while I'm talking, let's just go ahead and start with the obvious. We don't have a release window for Diablo IV. Oh, by the way, on the off chance you don't know what I mean by that, a release date is it's coming out the 13th of March. A release window is it's coming out spring, right? And I point that out because a release window is usually set up, it's like we're working on it, we have a release window, we have a release date. We're not even at the window stage yet. We're not even there. That's up to you, Mr. Red. I don't think Diablo 1 has aged all that well, but that's just me. I need to move chat just a little bit here. Forgive me, this might screw with my screen a little bit here. There we go. Are we on? You have to be moved. It's the only way. We'll go ahead and do this. Here we go. Let's go to here. There we go. Yes. Sorry, you're going to have to give me a moment. I just want to showcase something. Now, we here at the Lore Walkers believe in variances of opinion and variances of perspective. And we do. I do. I personally legitimately believe in different people thinking different things, and I think that's awesome. However, one of the things that I have seen repeated a little bit too much is how Diablo 1 and 2 are so much darker. That's almost always the word used, darker, than Diablo 3. Now, I'm not going to grab the whole thing. This is just the UI down here. That doesn't matter. So here you go. Diablo 3. This is me right now. Woo! Let's get our buffs going. Buff, 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 buff. Okay, so this is the very beginning of Diablo 3, right? So first thing we see is a couple corpses. Okay, yep. Zombies eating the dead. Yeah, that's just kind of how that works. And there's a lot of blood around. That's okay. And then we come up here, and there's just a whole lot of dead people, and the people are desperately fighting to hold back the ravenous dead that are attacking them because they died under unfortunate circumstances. All of these people are dead specifically because of the fact that they died badly, and justice itself is undone. This is, I don't know, 20 seconds into the game? Something like that? Not counting cutscenes, obviously. I wanted to make this point most clearly, because this just makes the point for me. However, let me go ahead and mention something else. Now, I need to actually advance the quest slightly here. Give me just a moment. But one of the things, this is a specific comment. I wrote this down. So there's a gentleman who actually got to play a Diablo IV demo at Blizzcon. And he specifically mentioned how the game is so much darker and gorier than D3 because, and I'm using a direct quote here, because there's corpses and people impaled and people vomiting all over the place. Okay? Oh, right. I need to hang on. Sorry, I'm getting screwed up in my aura. It's actually been a while since I've done the story. Give me a break here. All right, that's sorry. Just left Leia in here with the dead. Sorry, Leia. Sorry. Where'd you go? Where is she? There she is. Hey, Leia. Yep. There we go. Yep. Okay, out we go. She's fine. Give me a minute. Yeah, my battlecruiser. Okay, so you see that person right there? Do you see that enemy? I don't know if you can see that, but she's vomiting all over the ground. She's actually attacking by throwing her own vomit at me. Her actual action, her special ability, that type of mob, is they throw up new zombies. I just wanted to point this out. I know that some people have a valid point about the tonal difference between Diablo 1 and Diablo 2, because there is a tonal difference between Diablo 3 and Diablo 4. Or, goddamn, I'm screwing up all my numbers. Between 2 and 3. But I have seen several direct quotes, specific quotes, that are things that are demonstrably, because I'm showing them to you right now, in 3. Hey, look, she just did the vomit attack again. Look at it. Oh, God, impaled corpses. Yeah, trust me, there's impaled corpses all over the place in this game. But let's go ahead and show off one other thing, just super quick here. This won't. This just give me a minute. And by a minute, I mean about 10 seconds. Do 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 do. All right, so let's switch over to adventure because I kind of have to. Ignore the battle cruiser. It's just there. It just works, okay? All right, here we go. Where is it? It's up here, I think. There's the ruins. There's fort. That's true. I do disagree with the internet, and that it does make me in the wrong. Is it in 4? Whoop, whoop, whoop. Hang on, hang on. I'm just looking around here. I honestly don't remember where it is, so you gotta give me a moment here. Because I usually only go there if there's a bounty, if I'm being honest. I thought it was Act 3, but I don't see it. Unless I'm just blind. I mean, there is this. This is a fun one. Now, okay, this is stupid, but his blood is still there. You remember this? This is from the Diablo II Lord of Destruction guy. This is the bridge that Bale was crossing. I mean, we could go to the Halls of Agony, yeah. I'm pointing this out specifically, though, because some people say that D3 is just a little bit too colorful, and that's one of the problems with it, is that the color palette is so high that it causes issues. But this is actually not the specific place I was going to point out, but this is another example of what I'm talking about. We'll get there, Dr. Nimbus. I'm not talking about WoW yet. You can see how they're trying to effectively emulate the D2, in fact, specifically the LOD palette within D3. Oh, if you want sheer gore, GOM is just the worst. Ugh, if you want gross factor, there you go. By the way, this build is stupid. I just want to say that. Now again, I'm not trying to say there isn't a tonal difference between D2 and D3. I'm not. I'm really not. It's just a lot of the media, and I'm going to say it that way, a lot of the YouTube videos and a lot of the articles I've read, including several I read this weekend, have specifically been pointing out how much darker and gorier and grossier that D4 is looking from D3, and yet every single specific thing they both showcased and described is something I could point to a specific spot in D3 where that's already a thing. Like, okay. What? Did you not play D3? It's entirely possible they didn't. Who knows? So they actually did show some of the gameplay of D4, and I'm just going to be real for a second, even though it is a new engine. It looks like D3, except they've desaturated it a bit. And I did watch it again just to reaffirm that opinion, or rather, reaffirm or deny. And I do reaffirm it. It really does look like they have decided to just tear some of the color out of the color. Like I said, desaturate, and that's what it is. Now, that's fine. And in fact, as weird as this may sound, that's probably the one and only thing that makes me actually excited for D4, is the fact that, you know, it's D3 again. I like this engine. I like this gameplay. However, this is a good time to mention something else about D4. So they're going back to talent trees. Okay, real talk, whether that's good or bad, that's up to you. I think it's bad. I think it's a step down. I'm going to explain why. Because I think this is one of the best game design systems I have ever seen. This, in my opinion, is an amazing system. Now, if you don't really understand what you're looking at or you haven't played this game, I'm just going to break this down super quick. You have 6 slots and 4 talents. Each of these slots has a mutator, a rune you can attach to it. Each ability is substantially different, and each rune can substantially change how they play. You can also swap these basically at will. I've talked a lot recently about the nature of builds versus alternate progression. This is pure build. There are so many different ways you can build your characters in this game. Now, I will go ahead and admit, in the interest of fairness, when you get to a certain difficulty, the builds start to standardize, and that is a negative to the game, and I agree with that. Like, I'm at Torment 1 right now. This is pretty easy, to be completely... I mean, you see, I'm just kind of rolling over everything. I can do up to about Torment 13 with this build. To do better, I need to switch my build, because, duh. Builds also, in fairness, have to do with this stuff. You know, specific affixes and specific usages of gems and blah, 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 blah. But all of this stuff is an extremely awesome system, in my opinion. Yeah, I know, but I don't remember where it was, Dakota. I was there a few weeks ago, or months ago, I guess, actually, at this point. But I don't remember where it was. Like, I don't see it. Anyways. Act 2? Oh, there it is. Apparently it was Act 2. Anyways, I like this system a lot, is what I'm trying to say. From a purely game design perspective, I've had to actually do a review of D3. Ignore the corpses on the walls. Ignore them. They're cool. They're cool. Ignore the guts that just exploded everywhere. Ignoring how much I like that system, and I do, they're switching to a pure talent-based system. Now, what's funny is they were describing it, and I was sitting here listening to the description. It's like, but that's just D2. That is straight up D2. So every time you level, you get a skill point. You can use a skill point to raise an existing skill or get a new skill. It's D2. It's the talent tree from D2. 1-to-1. So whether that's going to be good or not, that's going to specifically depend on exact implementation. We'll see. Obviously, I can't judge that yet, but I am a little bit... Well, okay. Let me just be real for a second. You mind if I be real for a second? Ignore the blood, ignore the spiked things, ignore the giant corpse monster for a second. In a vacuum, it doesn't really bother me that they're doing that. In a vacuum, I don't care. As long as it's actually a good game, I don't really give a damn. What I'm most worried about is a lot of their approach, and this is all, again, we can't really judge this. The game's not going to be out for like a year and a half. But a lot of their approach seems to basically be, okay, people didn't like D3, but they like Path of Exile and they like D2. So let's make D4 D2. And that attitude, in my experience, it tends to lead to bad game design. Yeah, it tends to lead to bullet pointing, exactly. I call that bullet point syndrome specifically for that. If they want to make a good game, and they happen to be making it in that direction, sure. I'm fine with that. If they think, you know what, why don't we use these talent tree abilities and you know, do a little more refinement of exactly how they work, and it'll be great, sure, done. Because all I really care about at the end of the day is if it's a good game or not. But it sounds a little bit too much like they're bullet pointing. You'll notice that a lot of the marketing thing was we're wanting to get back to the tone and the darkness and the goriness and it's just, you guys, what? Diablo, the series, has never not been dark. Ever. I mean, I can make a Whimsyshire joke, but I don't actually have a staff on me, so, you know. Now, let's keep talking about D4. I do actually have more D4 stuff to share, but I wanted to start with this because that right there makes me less inclined more than anything else. Now, I'm hopeful. I'm with what Takoida just said in chat. I know you can't see it because I got the game covering everything, but Takoida just said, I hope it's just the PR section being silly, and that is exactly my hope, too. I hope the actual game developers don't give a crap about any of that stupid crap, and they're just making a good game, and it's only the PR department that's trying to, you know, chase the trend or catch on memes or whatever, right? We'll see. We'll see. Again, the game's not going to be out for a while. But what we do know about the game is that it's going to include... okay, hang on. Let me just describe this for a second. Let's see if this sounds familiar to you, okay? So you're going to go out into the world, and you're not going to probably see a bunch of people out in the world, so to speak, but you are going to see a whole bunch of people in town, you know, just trading and interacting with each other. And you can group with them, but you can't, and occasionally there's going to be PvP, and you're going to have a solo quest, which is going to change which specific layer of the quest you're on, and it's an MMO. It sounds like an MMO. It's an MMO. Everything they've described about it is basically exactly like their approach to MMOs nowadays. It will, of course, be always online, just like the game I'm playing right now is, which is dumb for, like, a bajillion reasons I don't even feel like getting into right now. So that is admittedly hesitation number 2. First, dark. Second, MMO. We'll see where they go with that. They have mentioned that they're thinking about limiting your party size to 4. I already don't like that in this game. In fact, if I ever do review this game is getting a negative for a 4-player party size. Because that's dumb. for many reasons, again. Anyways, let's bow out of this. Boop. Hi, I'm back. What else we got with D4 here? Let's see. Let's look at the Q&A really quick. They're bringing back the Druid. They're bringing back the Sorceress, the Barbarian. It's coming to come out on PC, Xbone, and PS4, because screw you, Switch. They're going to have 5 regions, shared open world. I already mentioned that. The story is supposed to be non-linear. Now, okay, real talk for a second here. A non-linear story can be a good thing, but in my experience, when you hear non-linear story, what I tend to hear is threadbare story. In short, not a lot of story. Instead, it's mostly like, imagine a game where it's like, go do a mission, and then go do a mission, and go do a mission, and go do a mission in any order. They don't really have a cohesive thread going through them. It's just go do a random story mode, right? Or go do a random quest. Yeah, not focusing on story, exactly. Okay. Let's see here. Darial is back. Oh my god. Yeah, we saw that. There will be a hardcore mode. They're going to have local co-op, 2-player local co-op based on both the Xbone and the PS4 versions. There will be no offline mode, but there will be options for those who want to play solo, so D3 at that point. They're working on trading and crafting. Maybe I'm just old, cynical, bitter, tired, ugly, flat, and stupid, but I have to admit, nowadays, I look at most crafting systems, most games, and my first thought is, why? Why does crafting exist in WoW? Like, what purpose does it serve? Like, don't mistake me, some games can do crafting well. But I really have to stretch to think about games that really nail crafting. Most of the time, it's just another thing you do. A way to put your loot into something else, and that's kind of it. Yeah, it's a time grind. It's a time waster in almost every game it's in, including WoW, by the way. Like, there have been good crafting games. Dragon Quest Builder 2 was a good crafting game. It was. There was a lot you could do with that system, and that was well designed, IMO. I think FF14 has a pretty decent crafting system too, mostly because it has actual gameplay to it. Like, there's actual interaction with regards to it. Kingdom Come Deliverance. That's another good one for crafting. Because, again, actual gameplay. I haven't seen Warframe crafting, so I can't speak of that one, sorry. But you get my point, right? Actually having some actual purpose or gameplay or design or something to crafting is kind of more the exception than the rule. So they're adding crafting and trading, of course, so that's neat. So, blah, 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 blah. Sorry, I'm just reading really quick here. Bosses will have a stagger mechanic because FF13 is a wonderful game. Shut up. I'm being exaggerative. I'm joking. But I really hope that's not the FF13 stagger mechanic, because I hate the FF13 stagger mechanic. Like, a lot. Blah, 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 blah. They're going to have world events, which are going to be raid bosses, so more than 4 people can interact with those at a time. Blah, blah, blah. Dungeons are going to be randomized. Duh, I don't even know why they had to answer that one. They still aren't sure what they're going to do with potions yet. Now, that's actually an interesting one. I will go ahead and say that Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 have such different approaches to potions and healing that it's hard to compare the two directly. They're in entirely different fields with how they do it. So that's a completely different topic. So I'm curious what they're going to do going forward. Let's see. They're developing the game from the ground up with PvP in mind. Cool, I'm with that. Blah, 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 blah. No support for mods, because screw you. That is one of the bigger, see around Caspian, one of the bigger complaints I have of D3 is that there are no mods for D3. I'm sorry, I liked a lot of the mods for D2. I made a few mods for D2. Really basic ones, but still. Oh, yeah, yeah. They have said, so this is actually a funny one. They're going to sell the game, and they're going to sell expansions, but they're not settled 100% on what they're going to do with monetization. I hope they don't add microtransactions to Diablo 4. But to me, that sounds like it's not our decision kind of answer, just to be blunt about that. Like, because that was a developer Q&A. That sounds like a we don't get to make that decision kind of an answer. So, we'll see. Interesting. Kira White Noise. What else? As I said, no release date, no release window. Blah, 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 blah. I guess that's a kind of it. I suppose we should talk about the lore really quickly. So, Lilith's back. I'm really curious how many people heard the name Lilith and were like, who? I'm honestly curious if anyone in chat right now had that reaction. Again, no judgment, because here's the thing. Lilith and Inarius are both critically important characters to Diablo's lore. Critically important. But both of them have almost no real presentation in the story, in the games, I should say. In fact, the first time either of them had any real on-screen presence is in Diablo 3's expansion, where both of them had audio logs in the final dungeon. That's it. Other than that, there's just a couple references, and that is all. So for those of you not familiar with it, really quick, Lilith and Inarius made Sanctuary and the Nephilim. There's this quick and dirty. There's a lot more to it, but if you want more, go watch the Diablo lore run. I talk about it at length. But yeah, I'm looking at it like, huh. So Lilith is the daughter of Mephisto. Now that's kind of important to mention because we've beaten Mephisto. In fact, we've beaten the Primeval at this point. So thank you, Shikor. I was actually pretty pleased with the Diablo run, so that makes me happy that other people thought that too. It totally does, Degoida. So Lilith is back, and I'm not sure what I think of that. This is appropriate music for Diablo 4 here. I've said before that a game doesn't need to continually escalate. So bringing it back down from D3 makes a degree of sense to me. The problem is the ending of D3's Reaper, which is not a good ending if we're just being honest with ourselves here, left a lot of specific doors open. They specifically name-dropped the corruption of the Nephilim and the increasing threat of not only the Nephilim, the main character from D3, but the other Nephilim that are slowly starting to arise. What's-his-face, I can't think of his name, please forgive me, is still around and still active. And all of the evils were released, again, right at the end. Spoiler alert. Sorry. So, to go from all of that to, by the way, Lilith's back is just kind of... Huh? So, we'll see. Now, in the interest of total honesty, if you remember the end of D2's expansion, that ended with the destruction of the World Stone. Then D3 showed up and didn't really acknowledge that or the substantial significance of that until a little way into it. Now, it did. D3 did acknowledge and conclude the story arc of D2. D3 to D2. I hope I'm getting the names right, because I keep screwing my names this week. So it's not like they ignored D2. So it's entirely possible that we just don't know now what they're going to do with the open threads from D3 in D4. Yeah, there's probably going to be another time skip, and we're probably going to deal with another generation of Nephilim and blah, 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 blah. We'll see. We'll see. However, what Nero's says is what a whole lot of other people have said. Basically, it's entirely possible that Lilith has some kind of direct personal power over the Nephilim, which can, cause issues, obviously. If that's true, that would also be true with Inarius, if you think about it. So, we'll see. I do agree Lilith is pretty low tier compared to what we have already taken on in D2. Like, in my opinion, we've already gone above Lilith's pay grade as of D2. Like I said, very appropriate. See you around Blue, Alex. Very appropriate music, Hazardous. There's a whole lot of we'll see here. There's a whole lot of we'll see. I will admit, however, and I don't want to sound negative, all I've seen so far is a game where the PR is not something I agree with and seems to be going down a bad path, and the game itself is focusing in a direction I don't think is a good one with the whole live MMO thing. We'll see. And to my knowledge, no, we do not know where Inarius is as of now. Lilith was in the Void. She was actually banished there. The presumption right now is that Lilith was resummoned from the Void with that blood ritual in the cinematic. That's a good question, Diesel Edge. He could have reformed, like the angels do, gone back to the Spire. I mean, we don't know. That's the problem. There's not a lot of information on what's going on with Inarius right now. Let's talk Overwatch. I should have been timestamping these. Damn it. Whatever. Let's talk Overwatch. Now, you might be wondering why I'm saving this one for second to last. Correct. Leah's storyline just kind of stopped. So, who had sex with Mephisto? That is a good question. Let's not think about that. Then again, I mean, Inarius and Lilith. Oh yeah, Blizzard Arcade, real quick. Blizzard Arcade showcased all 3 of the SNES games, which I played in the pre-stream leading up to BlizzCon. That's just amusing. I just wanted to share that. You'd think they'd be like, here's these games released on a modern thing, but no. Anyways. Alright, so moving on. Overwatch. Alright, so... I'm trying to think of where I want to start with Overwatch. Let me start with the bombshell, okay? Anyone cool with the bombshell? Of every game announced at BlizzCon, the one I am most excited to play is Overwatch 2. It's the one that hit me the best. Like, oh, that looks pretty good. We've got new characters. We've got, which doesn't really matter too much to me, but we've got hero modes, which is PvE co-op interaction stuff. Scenario-based missions, which I love scenario-based missions. Left 4 Dead, basically, right? They're actually having campaign missions and a story arc, which will finally start going forward. The cinematic trailer, despite being incredibly cliched, was very well done, which is pretty much the Blizzard norm, if we're just being honest with ourselves. They're adding actual builds and character customization, and I have actually gotten a chance to look at several of them, and most of the specific talents, there's only a few of them, there's like 9 talents, but each of them is a substantial change to the gameplay style. Each of them will alter how you play, significantly, which is what a talent should do, in my opinion. It should make you play differently. It should be a build, right? I think that's actually most of the stuff I'm really interested in. I really don't have any interest in the PvP, random modes. Like, they're adding push straight out of Team Fortress 2. Woo! The problem is we will see what's going to actually be the meat of both the co-op mode missions, the scenario missions, and the story missions. If those are good, in my opinion, for me, that's what's going to make or break it. If those gameplay modes are actually fun and good and interesting. Because it's entirely possible, and several people in chat have already said this, and people said this Thursday too. or Friday, excuse me. It's entirely possible that they're just going to be the multiplayer maps against bots, which several other games have had a single-player campaign, which was just multiplayer matches against bots. Titanfall 1. There have been several games that have done that. And it always sucks whenever they do that. So we'll see if there's any real substance to it. Overwatch 2 also does not even have... Quake 3, that's another good one. Overwatch 2 also does not have a release window. So who knows when the hell this is going to come out. But I have to admit, it caught me. I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds cool. Because here's the catch. And let me just go ahead and be real about this for a second. It's like the third time I've been real today. Overwatch 1, I've said this before and I've said this again. I'm basically borrowing this from Takoida, but I mean it sincerely. Overwatch 1 was a good tech demo. It was. But there was no meat on those bones for me. Now, I know. You know, lore, you don't count, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Sure, whatever. For my opinion, there was no meat there. There was no substance to Overwatch 1. It was a pretty cool skeleton for an actual game, but the actual game wasn't there. It is my hope that Overwatch 2 will be an actual game. That is what I am hopeful for. Because I actually got into Overwatch for a bit there. It's just, it was so absent. It was like, well, I'm done. I liked playing it during multiplayer, during Blizzard Sundays back when we used to do that. Yeah, I'm hoping we'll see a Titanfall 2 or a Destiny 2 with this. Those are good examples. Because Titanfall 2 definitely was much more of a game than Titanfall 1, and did it with Destiny 2. I've actually played through Destiny 2, so I can say that. Oh yeah, and cosmetics carryover. So, let me just double check, see if there's anything else about Overwatch. Blah, 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 blah. Oh my god, the world's under attack. Dun, dun, dun. Strategic choices. That's not what strategic choices are. They're adding healing items. They're adding items in general, excuse me, that you can use. Blah, 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 blah. Yep. Already talked about that. Already talked about that. They're actually doing a new engine, increased HUD. I'm not sure what I think of the new HUD yet. This is going to be coming out on PC, Switch, PS4, and Xbone. Now, this is actually a fun thing. He mentioned, Kaplan mentioned the team's just going dark after BlizzCon's over. I actually like that. Speaking both as a consumer and as a developer, I haven't developed in a long time, but I've had this problem in my life. I'd rather spend time, or they spend time, working on the actual product than, okay, now let's go make a demo. We need to make a showcase video. We need to make a... No, let them actually work on the product, okay? Just let them work on the product. God dang it. What else? Blah, 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 blah. Just looking at the notes here. I think that's basically everything. We're getting a Canadian hero. Woo! Okay, that's it. Cool. Overwatch 2. Woo! That's it. Right, we're done. We're done. We're done. Right? Yep, we're done. We're out. We're out. Got nothing else to talk about today. Let's talk about WoW. Do you want me to start with the bad or the good? It's more like a bastard sword, Mighty Mage. But yeah, it's about 30 pounds. It is a fairly large, fairly heavy sword. I know it's hard to see on camera. It is a fairly lengthy blade. It's an awesome, I love this thing. It feels great two-handed. Bad. I've seen a lot of people saying bad first. Is it actually steel? I don't remember what this is. It is metal. You know, this is actual metal. All right. Okay. So here's what I'm going to ask you guys. Just do me a favor, okay? This is the same thing I always ask you, but I feel the need to repeat it every now and again just in case. Do me a favor. Oh, I could totally kill someone with this thing. But then again, I could kill someone with a pencil, so that doesn't mean anything. Be civil. That is all I ever ask of you guys. I have a feeling several of us are going to disagree about this. I have a feeling quite a few of you are going to disagree with me about this, and that's fine. Disagreements are fine. I'm totally cool with that. All I ask is that we all be civil, okay? Now, I have spent the better part of the last several days trying to digest my initial emotional reaction to the announcement. There's a reason I had to play Mega Man 2. It was causing... I was not cool. It was just... I've heard several other people talk about this. I've chatted about this up with several of my friends. We've kind of come down to it. It boils down to this. I'm going to give the summary. Then I'm going to talk about it. The summary is... I don't like basically anything about where the story of Shadowlands is going. The gameplay looks really, really good, actually. In fact, I'm on board with basically all of the gameplay stuff they're doing. But the story, not at all. So, where to begin? So first, Bolvar Fordragon gets defeated like a punk by Sylvanas. I did, Raskor. You're right. Now, I saw someone on Twitter say this. This actually stuck with me because this is a great comment. In fact, hang on. Actually, I'm sorry. I actually have a different song for this section. I actually queued this up just for this. Here we go. So, hang on, Aethel. Let me get this all out for a second. So, Sylvanas, just out of nowhere, has been empowered by Super Death, okay? Now, Sylvanas... This is a little loud. Sylvanas has never been high tier. Sylvanas was killed by a shotgun back in Cataclysm. And someone asked, do I think, you know, that the second Lich King would have been able to defeat Sylvanas? And my reaction was, you remember when the second Lich King defeated Illidan before he got the helmet, right? You remember that? It was the end of Frozen Throne. Like, you remember that? Now, some people think the third Lich King is weaker than the second, and some people think he's stronger, and there's actually a variance of opinion on that. For example, the third Lich King doesn't have this, and that is worth noting. However, the third Lich King also has the general powers and mentality of the previous one, the skill set. So arguably, he is both stronger and weaker, which is why I'm just kind of whatever on this. So, the way the person on Twitter said this, though, and I thought this really stuck with me. If they took a random innkeeper, if they took random innkeeper number 37, Bob Bilgesvite, and empowered him with Death Dude's ability. He's the jailer, by the way, but I'm going to call him Death Dude because screw him. If they empowered Bob Bilgesvite with Death Dude's abilities and power and imbued him, then yeah, it would actually make perfect sense that Bob Bilgesvite would be able to defeat the third Lich King in combat. You kind of see where I'm going with this? It makes sense, but that doesn't make it good. This leads me to my next point, and I've been pondering this one off and on ever since, because this one has really been sticking to my craw. Something about Sylvanas hasn't been working for me, arguably since Kata, at this point. Although I could argue it's technically before Cata. So, Sylvanas Windrunner, you know, she was a stark, violent, brutal, very skilled, very harsh elf. You know, typical elf, right? She dies. Plonk. And then after she died, power slide joke. After she died, she got back up. And it's like, okay, she's back up. All right. She's being forced into this horrible fate and forced to kill her own country. And that's appropriately tragic and wonderful. Then she gets her own body back for reasons we're just going to hand wave away for a second. And because of the first Lich King's grasp being loosened, she receives some of her freedom back. And it's like, aha, and I will use this to get my ultimate revenge. And with this revenge, I will be able to destroy the enemy and blah, blah, blah. Epic swords, Brazer. And then there's this whole arc, which actually was really cool, in my opinion, where she effectively, this is admittedly a little bit retconned. We'll go and admit that. There's actually 2 retcons specifically with this. But the cohesive story as is after she died the first time, she went to the Light, which actually now we have to call the Bastion. We'll get to that. But she went to this beautiful, wonderful place in the afterlife. Woo! But then she was brought back as a Banshee. So then she wanted desperately to destroy the one who took it from her, which she presumed was Arthas. So everything she did was all about getting that revenge and then dying. And so she falls and dies on the spires of Icecrown, and then she ends up in someplace much, much more horrible. Okay. I want to point out something real quick, and because this is relevant, she ended up in what we now refer to as the Maw after... Hang on, I'm saying this wrong. She ended up in the Bastion after the Helm of Domination was established. Okay? I just want to make that clear. The first Lich King already had the Helm and was already using it, and death had already been broken by the time she went to the good afterlife. You with me so far? That's going to come up later. I just want to mention it here. So... she decides she gets her revenge. Arthas is dead. She goes and kills herself. Cool. All of this has been a nice arc for me. Now, I was kind of still with it in Cata, because what happened is after she died, she went to the Maw, what we referred to at the time as the Dark. And it was a really, really horrible place, and the way they describe it is it's incredibly unpleasant. And so she gets out of there thanks to the sacrifice of the Valkyr, and wants to do anything in her power to prevent herself from going back to there. Okay, still makes sense. You're kind of losing me a little bit, but I'm still getting the story arc. And so all of Sylvanas' actions in Cataclysm make sense through the lens of terror. If you presume everything she's doing is trying to survive at any cost. Because she is moved to what is effectively a state of panic over not wanting to go back to that horrible death place, right? Fast forward a bit. She effectively stops being a character in Pandaria and Warlords, and she only comes back in Legion. Legion. All of a sudden, she is made War Chief of the Horde because of the Jailer, because we can pretty much say it's him at this point. And she's like, I am now War Chief of the Horde, and I'm going to just kind of be here. And what happens for me, now this is getting into opinion at this point. What happens for me is that Sylvanas stops being a character and starts being there. Now, if you're paying attention, this is not the first time Blizzard has had this problem in World of Warcraft specifically. In fact, I can name to another character right off the top of my head who has a lot of screen time, but no character. Tyrande. Now, they're trying to change that recently, but for a very long time, Tyrande was on camera a lot and didn't do anything or mean anything. So, this, again, not exactly the first time this has happened. And there are other characters like that. But my point is, Sylvanas' arc is apparently going in the direction of her either being the ultimate good, because she is going to try and fix the imbalance of death and either replace the Jailer or become the new Death and save everyone, or she is becoming the ultimate bad and replacing the Jailer as the new avatar of Death, in which case she will now be the main villain across everything. So she's either going to be the big good or the big bad? And my first question is, why her? So I want to ask you guys an honest question. How many of you can think of someone who you think personally is a better pick than her for this type of character, for this slot? I can think of like 4, personally. She is a super beloved character. She is basically the face of WoW at this point in time. Like it or not. Like, it used to be Thrall, and then Thrall just kind of bowed out because Metzen quit. And now it's Sylvanas. She's not even the last remnant of the Warcraft III staff. It's just, she's really, really popular. Oh, ha, Juanta. I've seen several people say Kel'Thuzad, which is my first pick, by the way. What do you want to bet Kel'Thuzad won't even be in this expansion? Anyone want to bet that right now? Because it makes a lot of sense. Because the last thing we heard from Kel'Thuzad was that he was destroyed after the second destruction of Naxxramas and lost in the Shadowlands. That's literally the last thing we heard from Kel'Thuzad. What do you want to bet he won't even be in the Shadowlands expansion? Yeah, Kael'thas is going to be there. I can't think of the name. Thrall's mother is going to be there. I forget who else. They've already mentioned a few people. His phylactery was stolen back in Vanilla. It's actually in the Chronicles book that Kel'Thuzad is lost in the Shadowlands. Although, apparently that's not canon anymore. Oh yes, Uther. That was the other one. So Uther, Thrall's mother, and Kael'thas. Those are the ones that we are 100% confirmed are going to be seen in Shadowlands. Yeah, go ahead, Liberated. So, this is my first point of negativity. Why her? I'm not interested in her. I'm sorry, I'm not. She had a good story arc, and then it stopped. And they're basically turning her into the main character of WoW. And I'm just looking at this like... Because, again, she's going to be the villain of Shadowlands one way or the other. Whether she is the ultimate bad or ultimate good, she is actually going to be the villain, period. Yeah, be it... Actually, I agree that Nathanos has more character than Sylvanas. Today, actually, is Destroyer. It'll be right after this stream. We'll be doing it. Yes and no, Liberated. I'm with you, but at the same time, I do think that they could do more, basically. We'll get to the afterlife thing in just a second. I have other thoughts about that. Where's my thing? There it is. Oh God, Cashel, don't even. Okay, so they'll probably bring back Arthas too. And the funny thing is, they could screw that up so easily in so many ways. Oh, I think the song just ended. It did. That's because it did. Hang on. Where's my new playlist? There it is. There we go. New playlist just for this. All right. So, first problem, Sylvanas. Problem number 2. This is going to sound petty, and that's okay. You can call me petty. I can handle it. They have basically made the Chronicles books not codified canon. Not truth, in other words. That irritates me on so many levels that I don't actually know where to start. So for those of you who don't remember, the Chronicles books were being originally posited. The original Chronicles Volume 1 was being marketed and posited as this is the truth from the author. This is the actual truth, the out-of-character truth. That was always the intent going into the original. They did that with Volume 1 and Volume 2. Word of God, as it's usually referred to. Volume 3 started to show the strain on that one, because Volume 3 wasn't that good, if you'll remember. Like, we talked about that. In fact, more than half of Volume 3 was dedicated to Warcraft 3, whereas the rest was dedicated to, like, 4 expansions of WoW, which is just very strange presentation. So, for those of you not aware, that has now been retconned. It is now true that the Chronicle is, in fact, just from the Titan's point of view. In other words, it is in character and not true. It is just another incorrect story source. It would be the same, to put this into perspective, the way it was if we had the Chronicles book and read it, that is the authors telling us what happened. Third-person omnipotent perspective. I forget the proper term, but that's what it is. What it is now is as if we were in-game, walking up to a book written in the game, omniscient, thank you, not omnipotent, written in the game by the Titans, and we're reading the Titans' words in-universe. That's what it is now. Now, to be clear, that's fine in its own right. It's only it's the change that bothers me. It's the absence of the former that bothers me. It's the fact that this is garbage that bothers me. Sorry. Rewind. Now, the reason why they do this? Well, I mean, the obvious reason is money. But the other reason, this gives them free carte blanche to retcon whatever they want to. They no longer have to pay attention to the Chronicles books or the lore and story that it has established. They can just completely ignore it going forward, which they have. I don't remember the full list. I don't remember the full list of all the specific details. People far smarter than me and far more dedicated to WoW lore have already started writing down itemized lists of all the things that already, as of now, from what little we know already, Shadowlands has retconned from the Chronicles books. It's more than a few. So that's irritation number 2. See you around, Seraphim. Irritation number 3 is... trying to think how to phrase this. Okay. I've got it. How many of you have ever seen Star Trek Enterprise? I'm seeing a lot of ifs, yeses, nos, and maybes. Let me just hear this. Those of you who have seen Enterprise, you'll probably get this immediately, but I'll explain it. What this reminds me of is the beginning of Season 4 of Enterprise. Now let me explain this, because I'm sure most of you are like, huh? This is going to be a minor spoiler. A very minor spoiler, don't worry. Okay? So, Season 3 is string continuity. Okay? I don't know why I'm not centered here. There we go. String continuity. As in, the story from the beginning of Season 3 to the end of Season 3 is one story. That's what string continuity means. One episode leads directly into the next, This was a brand new experiment for Star Trek. And I think it worked pretty well. There's still some stinkers. There were still some issues with Season 3, but it was still enjoyable, right? At the end of Season 3, they get to the point where they have the big final climactic showdown, and, spoilers, they win. I know, shocking. The universe isn't actually destroyed. But after they win, what happened is they're like, okay, we need to figure out what's going on. Oh my god, something's weird. There's some weird signals, and we can't get a hold of Starfleet. Oh my god, we're in the past. And then there's this shot of an alien in a Nazi uniform walking towards the camera, and then it fades to black. And that's the end of Season 3. Okay? You with me so far? Again, I'm not really spoiling anything big. Now, the beginning of Season 4 had to deal with that. Now, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, I mean, they did a cliffhanger, so obviously they were going somewhere with that. No, they weren't. See, here's the behind-the-scenes perspective. The creators, producers, and writers who were developing the Season 3 arc wanted to end on the space Nazi thing, and they did have a story arc in mind. However, Enterprise wasn't doing all that well. So what they did was they wrote up to this point of the space Nazi, and they had some ideas, but then all of those people were basically fired. Like, not literally fired, but they weren't working on it anymore. A completely new staff was brought in, new writers, new producers, new showrunner, and they were now making Season 4. The problem is, well, I like Enterprise Season 4 a lot, actually. It's their best season, and I think it's some good television. The problem is, they had this space alien Nazi thing, and no idea what to do with it. So they were left with, And so then we had the opening of Season 4, Enterprise, which is kind of crap, just to be blunt about it. Like, there's worse, but they had to spend, I think it's actually 2 episodes. They pulled it into a 2-parter. I can't remember exactly. Please forgive me if I'm wrong about that. But they had to stretch this out into trying to resolve this and close up not only the space Nazi thing, but all the connecting threads. I'm speaking vaguely because I don't want to spoil. But all of the threads around the space Nazi thing all had to be concluded so that it could be done and gone so they could start Season 4. And that's how I feel about Shadowlands. Now, I know that's not literally true, because there is obviously a concurrent thread going. This has been teased at least since Warlords. Oh, you remember, right? The whole, the Master of Death thing? It was one quest, actually it was like 5 quests, down in the Arakoa area. You remember that? And they definitely had this in mind in Legion. And they obviously had this in mind in BFA. So it's not like this is a one-to-one parallel. But the impression I've been getting very strongly is that this team, which is the A-team, the WoW A-team, the one who made Legion and Pandaria and Wrath, it's that team. That's the team making Shadowlands. Keep that in mind. It feels like that team is like, okay, well, we've got this story thread that we have to continue. Okay, hang on. Death. The Death. The Avatar, the Jailer. Sylvanas. There you go. Okay, now we're in the afterlife. Okay, now let's start doing some storytelling. That's the impression I'm getting here. And no, the A-team did not make Battle for Azra. The B-team made Battle... For those of you not aware, WoW has 2 separate concurrent development teams. This makes sense. To keep any kind of release cycle, what it is, it's kind of like this. As soon as one thing finishes coming out, the other thing comes out, and then they start working on the next one, and they start working on the next one. Now, there's some obvious bleed over between teams, but basically the B team made, that would be Cataclysm, Warlords, and BFA, and the A team made Wrath, Pandaria, and Legion, and they are now making Shadowlands. And saying it like that, anyways. yeah, there's kind of a pattern, isn't there? Kind of a pattern. Now, that isn't one-to-one. Like I said, there is some bleed over. Warlords was... The plug was basically pulled on Warlords so that both teams could work on Legion. So, make of that what you will. To my knowledge, Wrath and Kata were the first times they split it up. Put simply, the B team was working on Kata while the A team was working on Wrath. So, to my knowledge, both teams were working on BC. Don't quote me on that, though. Totally, Zeiss, totally. All right, I've talked about the lore enough. And all of that is basically, bleh. There's a lot of info we got. Of all the games coming up, this is the one we got the most info on because it is the most complete. This is the one they have the most information on. So let's just kind of go down the list here, shall we? Hey, I like Cataclysm. I like the Cataclysm revamp. The dungeons, the raids. All right, so where to start? Let's start with the level squish. Let me go ahead and say that this to me sounds like an awesome idea. So for those of you not aware, they're going to make it so that instead of being level 110, you're going to be level 50. And in Shadowlands, you will level from 50 to 60. The general idea is that each given expansion is going to be roughly 5 or so levels. Well, okay, I'm saying that wrong, but that's the general equivalence of how they're layering it. However, what they're doing is actually another step further than that, which is actually a really cool idea, if I might be so bold. And I had an image ready for this, and I can't seem to find it all of a sudden. Hang on. Give me a moment. I may have to pull this off my own Discord. Because this image gets across the idea as simply as possible. And I'm really, really stupid, so you know how this is. I agree, they're definitely trying to modernize for new players. And again, I do think this is a good move. I've talked to a few people who, don't play WoW, and several of their reactions was basically, why didn't they do this? Like, this sounds like this is something that should have been done a while ago. And I actually agree with that. Here we go. Give me just a moment. I thought I had these ready, but obviously I didn't, so whatever. We'll get this one, because there's 3 images I want to show you guys here. And this will get it across simply and easily. So, I'll just show you the first 2. I don't need to show you the third one. The Prepared Runner. That's my new name. That is very large. Alright, here we go. Behold! So, this is the new leveling flow. The way this is going to work is you're a new player, you start off in this new starter zone. It's 1 to 10. Everyone starts off in this new starter zone, right? And it's a completely different thing. And if you're a brand new player, you play the starter zone, then you jump over to BFA, and then you jump over to Shadowlands. Okay? You with me so far? What if you want to play an alt? Well, this is what happens when you play an alt. This also goes for Death Knights and Demon Hunters. So you start off, then you do whatever the hell you want to, basically. Okay, you know how now you can go level all the way from 1 to, like, 60 in Southern Kalimdor or whatever, if you want to? You can pick and choose zones. Thank you, Braywin. This is basically that taken to the next logical extreme. In other words, you can go from the character creation and the initial starter zone. You'll be level 10, and in order to get to level 50, you can do basically Kata, as in, New World, right? Or you can do BC, or you can do Wrath, or you can do Kata, or you can do Pandaria, or you can do Warlords, or you can do Legion, or you can do BFA. Or mix and match, however much you want to. That, in my opinion, is awesome. That is a great system. Yeah, you can also do Wrath, then go to Legion. You could do Legion, then go to Wrath. It is a wonderful system. I like this system a lot. Now, they have also talked, I didn't get any specific details, but they did mention how one of the things they want to fix is how the story is all over the place. Now, I have actually admitted this is probably one of the bigger flaws of World of Warcraft as a whole. Because, well, let's just say that during the lore run, there's a reason I had to jump all over the place when it came to doing the lore run and when the order I was doing things, because the story's all over the place, right? There's actually an image they gave here for this, which I'm pulling up right now. Here we go. Who's the war chief? Exactly. We got Vol'jin, Thrall, Garrosh, Sylvanas. Depending on the specific point you are in the quests. Right? Yeah, where do you start? So, they have talked about how they're going to have... basically, you're going to be able to talk to Chromie, and there's probably going to be an interface function, which is going to allow you... There's going to be no War Chief, Mike. They're going to allow you to choose your path, and they're going to tell you the order in which the paths happen. In other words, again, I don't have codified, cohesive information on this, but the idea is they say they're going to make it more apparent and more clear what story is happening where in the storyline. Which is a good thing, because right now there's not a lot going for that. So, awesome. Hang on. I have many tabs open right now. Okay, so the squish revamp. Yes, awesome. Let's talk about leveling in the new thing. So let's get rid of that for a second. So you're gonna get to the Shadowlands, and you're gonna be able to do possibly to go to. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what they're actually doing. They're going to. You can do the zones in whatever area you want to. You can choose a covenant. A covenant will basically, yes, I do, Omega Legion. In fact, I think a Council of the Horde is that's something I've been positing for a while. It's something I've been pushing for a while. So I'm down with that. It's one of the two story things I'm down for. So you're going to be able to choose the zones and blah, blah, blah. It's going to be like Legion and BFA both. You can do the zones in whatever order. They level with you. You're going to have to pick a covenant. Now, so each of these covenants, these are fun. Each of these covenants, when we go to the afterlife, because that's where we're going, we're only seeing, I think, 5 slivers of the afterlife. They mention flat out that there are far more afterlives than just the 5 we're interacting with. Good. And I do have to admit, this is the other thing I like about the story of Shadowlands, because the afterlives of Warcraft have always been a little bit vague. We actually talked about this extensively during all 3 WoW lore runs we've done. Demons, we know what happens to demons. Orcs, Taurens, Trolls, we have a pretty good idea of what happens to them. What happens to a human? Right? Like, what happens to a Forsaken? Now, we had vague ideas of the light and the dark, which is what they were called at the time. Nowadays, we know the light is the Bastion and the dark is the Maw. But, you know, in any given circumstance, we had a lot of vagueness when it came to how exactly the afterlives worked in Warcraft. So codifying that and making it a more cohesive thing, sure, okay, I'm with it. Each of these covenants is specific to a specific type of afterlife. So we've got one covenant which is specific to reincarnation. That's the natural druidic one. We've got a afterlife that's specific to, you know, holy light. That's the Bastion. I mentioned them. We've got one that's all about power and expression of order. I forget their names. That's where the orc lady is. We've got one that goes, if you were a bad person. That's where Kael'thas is. And then we have the 5th one, which is basically hell. That's the Maw. I've already referenced that a few times. Nobody wants to be in the Maw. Nobody gets out of the Maw. And apparently people have been going to the Maw when they shouldn't be, which is part of the problem. That also gets into retcons. You caught me streaming, comma, of course, exclamation mark. But I am glad you enjoy your present, period. Happy birthday, exclamation mark. Phone hugs, period. You're my proof on this. Phone hug. So obviously, that's the general direction the story arc is going through. Odds of finding Sargeras in the Maw, 0. Unless they decide to retcon it, which who knows? I mean, this is just retcon the expansion, so who knows? Where's the Q&A? Where's the Q&A? I have that here. That's the Diablo IV thing. Tyranda's going to have a story arc in Shadowlands. She's going to be part of the Ardenweald. Ardenwold? Ardenweald? I don't know how to pronounce that. The reincarnation place that I referenced earlier. Faction restrictions will not be going away in the future because screw you. And that's the reason. The jailer is the main villain. We knew that. And also the jailer is the one who is, I've been calling Death Dude. The jailer is the one who's been either controlling or being manipulated by Sylvanas, depending on how that goes. Here we go. Q&A. This is what I want. Q&A. So, they mentioned a few things. Heritage armor is going to be basically the same. They're talking jailer is going to be a thing going forward. War mode will be a thing for some reason. Flying will be the same as it is. Legendaries will be transmoggable, finally. Blah, 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 blah. Give me a second. I'm reading down here a little bit. Canonically, the Alliance won the war fronts. And here's the question about we're not allowing Alliance and Horde to group with each other because screw you. They're thinking about BC Classic. That's something they're still debating. Here's where they mentioned the Chronicles thing. I already talked about that. I don't have anything else to add to that. Yeah, so during the BlizzCon restream, somebody said, Horde! And people are like, yeah, Alliance! Yeah. Some people in chat said, why didn't you say anything, Lore? Because you never said for Azeroth. Because that's the team I'm on. Where is my home? Is there a possibility of playable races with more or less than 2 legs now that mechanomes are a thing? Quote, if it's appropriate to destroy, then maybe. They got the new tech for mechanomes and can explore it now. That's been something we've been asking for like a while. So who knows exactly where that's going, or if indeed it's going anywhere. What the hell? Playable Naga when? Blah, 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 blah. I like this. There's a question. What happens when we die in the Shadowlands? This is funny. Listen to this answer. There is a much different aesthetic when you die in the Shadowlands. There's a different screen effect as well as the idea that Azeroth still needs us. So we are still able... Okay, this isn't the full question. Hang on. Give me a second. Here it is. It is very different when you die in Azeroth, i.e. the corpse run. In Shadowlands, it's different. Your spirit is not traveling back to you. We've created a different experience and screen effect, a different paradigm. The narrative behind it is the Kyrians are the spirit healers on Azeroth who decide if a soul is ready to cross over into Shadowlands. Our connection to Azeroth was always tethering us, but in Shadowlands, Azeroth still needs us. The aesthetic is different, but the story is the same. We still corpse run. That person needs to figure out their sentence structure a little bit better, methinks. And I quote, it's very different from when you die on Azeroth, i.e. the corpse run. Fast forward a little bit. The aesthetic is different, but the story's the same. We still corpse run. Anyways, whatever. Moving on. What else was I going to talk about? God. Maybe it is literally sarcasm. I don't frickin' know. Level squish, covenants. Right, okay, so covenants, there's 3 things they're doing covenant-wise. I hope not, Valkyria. In fact, I definitely hope not. Oh yeah, by the way, sorry, during the Q&A, they also confirmed that alternate Draenor is still out there, which also contradicts the Chronicles, by the way. Moving on. So... you get a class covenant ability, a non-class specific covenant ability, and then you also gain a soulbind. These are the 3 new gameplay mechanics for the new covenants. So the class covenant, the class ability, and I've got some here to listen. It's specific to the class and to the covenant. So if you are Kyrian and you're a mage, you get a 30-second cooldown, 1.3-second cast nuke that does arcane damage instantly and then gives a dot. However, your next 4 direct damage abilities that affect that target also have 25% increased damage, and it stacks up to 100%. This is... I'm just giving you a specific example. They give 4 examples of what this is. For example, for the Venthyr, you have a 2-minute cooldown, 2-second cast, summon 3 minions that rotate around the targeted enemy. Whenever they cast an ability or spell, they take damage and are rooted for 1.5 seconds. So, these are the kind of things that we get, right? Ergo, you get a class ability and a regular ability. The regular ability is exactly what it sounds like. Pretty normal stuff. Like, for example, that's too small for me to read. You turn into... 1.5-minute cooldown, 90 seconds. You turn into a spirit fox, increasing your movement speed by 30% and causing enemies to ignore you. You just become untargetable. Last 10 seconds or until cancelled while in a rest area. So, that's how the Covenant abilities are going to work. We also get Covenant soulbinds. Now this is the first time WoW has really poked at cross-classing. And I'm not sure what I think of this. The way this works is you bind your soul to an existing individual of that faction. That individual is someone who is basically of a specific class. You do not have to bind to someone of the same class you are. So you gain an ability relative to that class based on who you are soulbound with. And The new Soulbind, and this is kind of small, so I gotta zoom this in a little bit. The new Soulbind will give you what is effectively a talent tree. Now, it's a very basic talent tree, but you will get a talent tree for as you level up the Covenant in order to increase your Soulbind and make it better and get more abilities like that. So, woo! So, I sound a little bit bleh. I probably shouldn't. All of this sounds good to me. Like I said, almost all the gameplay stuff sounds awesome to me, with only one exception. You'll also get weapons, armor, cloaks, mounts, and, of course, the Covenant campaign. So this is actually a big one. In Legion, there were 13 story arcs, one for each class. In Shadowlands, there's going to be 4, one for each Covenant. Now, that's cool for me, because in BFA there were 2, one for each side, one Horde and one Alliance. So I'm down with the 4, and it's probably more reasonable than the 13. Remember, while a lot of those class stories were really good, some of them were also really bad. So 4 is probably a nice in-betweeny for them still being good, hopefully still being good. Yeah, they're also... let's not get into that. Okay. Looking at my notes here, because now we talk about the only thing I don't like about the gameplay side of things. And I quote, the actual panel's called Return to Class. In short, what they want, based on their own statements, is they want it to be about the class, not the spec. Let me just go ahead and say that I don't agree with that at all. I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's incorrect. I do, however, don't like the direction they're going with that. For me, a Frost Mage has always been different from a Fire Mage, has always been different from a Destro Warlock, has been different from a blah, blah, blah. You get it, right? I've always associated more as a spec than a class, and that goes back to, like, Wrath at this point. I mean, there's a pretty big difference between a Healadin and a Protoden, right? But they're going to be trying to emphasize more you're a Paladin rather than you're a Protoden. This is going to depend a lot on how they execute this, and we only have vague ideas so far, so I can't really comment on this in specific. So we'll see what they do going forward. However, they have mentioned things they want to bring back are auras for paladins, totems for shamans, poisons for rogues, and curses for warlocks. All of this has been specifically mentioned. We'll see. Again, we'll see. Last point. So I mentioned the Maw a few times. The Maw is going to be an endgame, randomly generated, gradual progression zone. Based on how they've described it, the upcoming incursions into the realm of madness that are happening in 8.3 are a beta test for the tech that will be going into the Maw. So if you're not aware of the 8.3 realms of madness things, let me just try to explain this simply. You go in, Palace of the Dead, although hopefully better. You go in, and the further in you get, the harder it gets. Pretty basic. It's randomized each time. You get special rewards from doing it, and you get things that specifically make it easier to go through it. Now, there's some specific variances here, and whether or not they actually make that work is going to depend, as ever, on specific execution. I will admit the idea of the Realms of Madness thing is a pretty cool idea to me, so we'll see if they actually pull it off in 8.3. They have mentioned that one of the things they want to do, at least with the 8.3 thing, is you'll get specific gear that will help you go through it, which is kind of like the light gear over in FF14's Palace of the Dead. You know, you increase the level of your light gear. I forget the term for it, but it's the light gear. You know what I'm talking about. If you play FF14, you know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to think, what else? What else? Is that everything? God, there's a lot of stuff. Looking at my notes. Looking at the Q&A thing. Looking at the summary. There's going to be 8 dungeons at launch, not counting the big one, the one I just mentioned. Oh yeah, they mentioned the pre-patch is going to be the Scourge Invasion 2.0. I actually did forget about that. This makes sense because, well, the Lich King's gone. So, you remember that whole, there must be a Lich King to prevent the Scourge from rampaging out of control? Well, there's no Lich King, so the Scourge are rampaging out of control. WoW has a very hit or miss pre-launch event history for me. Sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're really bad, and sometimes they're boring. So we'll see going forward. I'm actually very curious what they're doing with this. Oh, and Valkorian says, what is happening to Death Knights? Every race will be able to be a Death Knight in the expansion. If you're asking me why, I have no idea. I would rather you not, Takoida, but yes, you absolutely can. Oh yeah, don't forget the helm is the only thing that was keeping the... You're welcome, Atlantean spiders. Long time first, etc. Dwarf trilogy? Oh god, what's the Dwarf trilogy? No, it's okay, Takoida. If you want to, you can. I'm worried about people adding like 20 additional things to the list. The list is pretty big as is, you know. Oh, the Ganondorf trilogy. Gotcha. Duh. I'm stupid. Well, either way, shout-outs. Don't be a stranger. Thoughts, comments, questions, etc. Feel free to share. We're talking about WoW right now, but we'll be doing other things in a minute. Looking at my notes. I think that is kind of it. It does look like good stuff gameplay-wise. It does. I do like almost everything I'm seeing gameplay-wise. And you know what? And I'm just going to drop everything here for a second. That's a good question, Valkorian. We do know that Bolvar is not dead. He's just not the Lich King. He's just hanging out at Icecrown. In fact, near as I can tell, he's going to be the NPC that sends us up into the Shadowlands. So, some of you are aware of the fact that I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV. Not recently, but I have been playing it off and on over the course of the year. Now, Final Fantasy XIV is a game I don't enjoy playing. I don't enjoy Captain Weiss. I mean, Weisson's awesome, but thank you very much, Captain Weiss. Much obliged and appreciate the sub, sir. Thank you very much. And if you happen to know where you want to put that for funding a future stream, let me know. If FF14, I don't enjoy the gameplay. I just don't. I have tried, but I don't. It is a game I put up with because I enjoy the story. Because I do enjoy the story of FF14 quite a lot. WoW is kind of becoming the inverse of that. WoW is very quickly becoming a game I play because I enjoy playing it. Because I do. The gameplay of WoW, I've talked about this with PAX, and we both have the same thought. Every time we actually pick up WoW again, it's like coming home. It's like, oh, thank God. Right? I mean, some of you at least probably understand what I mean, even if it's not with WoW specifically. Because some games just click with you, right? Some games just Tetris right into that brain. And WoW is a game like that for me. And when I play WoW, it's like, it just fits, and it's smooth, and it's fun, and it's awesome, and I love it. Captain Weiss to Luigi's Mansion 3. You got it, sir. Thank you again. Yeah, I imagine there's at least one game that you guys understand that, right? So, but the story of WoW is just more and more, it's getting to be where it's like, okay. I mean, they already burned my home. What more can they do at this point? It's not like I don't play certain games just for the gameplay, right? Yeah. Anyways, enough whining from me. Yeah, it can always get worse. Oh God, yes it can. It could be WoW Vanilla. I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that. So I guess that's everything. Hang on, let me look at my notes here. What will the Forsaken do without Sylvanas? Well, they'll either they'll either continue to cling to her, which some of them have, or they'll realize that she's a horrible person, which some of them have. WoW's combat is too slow? Okay, I'm sorry. Could you clarify that one? I've never heard anyone say that. I will admit the recent GCD changes suck, and I would love it if they undid them. Because I hate the GCD changes they've made in BFA. Legion was the peak for enjoyability for WoW for me, because the GCD changes weren't there. It was very fluid, very fast-paced, and the artifacts made each spec just a little bit or a lot more fun to play, depending on the specific spec. Artifacts, in my opinion, were a fantastic idea, and I'm actually legitimately upset that they got rid of them. And then we had the Heart of Azeroth, which... basically, yes, Narlax. That's pretty much exactly right. So... Well, if it makes you feel any better, Atlantean Spires, based on what they're doing in Shadowlands with the revamp of 1 to 50, it would be a good time to get back into it. That being said, we will see if they pull this off. All of this is still the realm of conjecture. This game's not coming out till like next fall. 8.3, the final patch for BFA, isn't even out yet. The anniversary event doesn't even start until this coming Tuesday. So... we'll see. We'll see how they stick the landing. Or if they don't. So that's it. That's all the BlizzCon news. Sorry for taking so long on that one, but there was a bunch of stuff to run through. I'm excited for Overwatch 2. I don't give a damn about Diablo Immortal. Diablo 4 is too in the air. And WoW Shadowlands looks like a dumb story, but good gameplay. Also, Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, Warcraft 3 Reforged, and StarCraft 2. Just to run through it really quick. So, I'm going to go ahead and chop off... Wait, what's up, Bragwin? What's up? What's up? Must destroy Bragwin with the power of pants! It could, but probably only in Europe, Bragwin. Europe is far more harsh about those kind of things. Myron! Thank you very much, Myron. Much obliged as ever, sir. Thank you. And, you know the question. Oh no, Steam is totally weird now, Andrew. Pants emote. You already have a pants emote. You showed it earlier. Digimon, you got it. I think... there we go. And 97 to Digimon. There we go. Okay. Well, see, the problem is, Savacom, they actually lied leading up to the First Chronicles book. Like, that's kind of the core problem here. Ignoring the obvious general lie, there are specific lies leading up to that. This is the true codified history from the developers, from the writers. No, it isn't. Never mind. We changed our mind. I get that retcons are a thing, and at some point or another we just have to live with retcons. But really, like, retcons are kind of like HP. After a certain point, you run out of HP, right? I'm saying it's a bad analogy, but my point is, I can only put up with so many retcons when it comes to storytelling. And even a good retcon is still a problem. Because there have been good retcons. Warcraft 1 was retconned, and that was a good thing. Right? Only if they actually lied, Anthony. Well, I have a brother, not an HP. Okay, I'm going to chop this off for real. Hang on.